Yo, what up?
Yo.
Here with the
yo.
apostate peasant. Is that what you're calling yourself?
Yeah.
Oh boy.
He always
Well, that's
keeps
cool.
the same
So,
initials.
That's true. Always got to do that. We're here with the apostate prophet, the Dizzle, and someone from Diet Canada up here as well. Than is back.
What's up?
This is Than.
You're going to be in Diet Canada with me later this week. So.
That's right. We're going to be in Diet Canada this week. I'm going to freeze my ass off. Yeah.
Wait a minute. Who is Than? I don't even know Than.
I'm just some dude. Don't worry about it.
Yeah. He's just some dude. So
Okay.
I got to be on Timcast.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
Oh, you were serious. I'm the new guy Mike hired to be on Inspiring Philosophy.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah. So I got to be on Timcast. I was supposed to be on Timcast with AP because originally I was told that it was going to be a 2-on-2 kind of thing with Tim in the middle. And then I told AP, hey, they want us Friday. Like I told them a week ago. And then they were like, nah, we just want to do 1-on-1 instead because Ian wants to be there. And, so sorry, AP. It was supposed to be us, but I got to go debate on Timcast and it was glorious.
Awesome. Well, when I found out that it's just going to be you and that I'm not coming, I thought, oh, good, man. I was supposed to go there. Like, I don't care. But anyway, I'm glad that you went at least.
Yeah. They were like, AP's a loser. We don't want him.
Yeah, I thought I was gonna have to do a lot of the heavy lifting, but really, like Tim Pool, was really doing a lot of the fighting for me half the time.
Yeah,
like he was getting really annoyed by Deconstruction Zone, aka Justin, who was opposing my view, and Tim wasn't having any of it. I think you got to realize, like at one point, David, Tim just said, he said something like, you look kind of dumb. Like with one of the arguments he was saying, it's like, yeah, like, that was straight from the horse's mouth.
Dude, I was losing my mind listening to this because I was expecting you to go in on him, and I was so surprised that Tim was handling most of it and how good he was at calling him out on the random nonsense that he was doing. The fact that he didn't even know that he wants to critique the methodology of your studies, but then doesn't even know the methodology of his own studies. When that came up and Tim harped on it, I was losing it.
Yeah, we're gonna go over that. But for example, this super chat says, "IP, I think you should have went harder on him." There's a reason I didn't, because you got to know who you're talking to. Tim likes to control his show, and he has every right. It's his show. I've seen this before on a show. When people start getting rowdy and interrupting, he takes control and he immediately starts being a little bit more coming after you. So that's sort of what happened. I said a couple things. Justin started getting upset and going after the topic, interrupting me a lot, and Tim wasn't having it. And so Tim started coming down harder on him because Tim likes to run a show. So you let Tim run the show. He wants to have a conversation with you. You interject when you see fit, but don't try to take over his show. So the reason I didn't go harder on him was because A, Tim was doing it for me, and B, it's Tim's show. I'm not there to own the show. And when you do that, Tim will, he'll get back at you for that.
Plus,
so
I want to point out that, I also want to point out that the great hypocrisy here, because of the super chat by what was it, AK Crusader, is that I think you should have went harder on him. It is you should have gone harder on him, not you should have went harder on him.
He's got you, AK Crusader.
And this is a guy who's barely speaks English correcting you. How's that feel? Like English is like the 12th language he's learning. He barely speaks English. He doesn't understand things like prepositions and pronouns. He gets his pronouns wrong all the time, and he's correcting your grammar. How's that feel? Hey, AK, whatever. I think you should have gone harder on learning grammar. What's wrong with you? Why are we going off on this guy? All he did was say, I think you should have gone harder on this dude.
How to interpret Romans 9 in a non-Calvinist way. Check out Tim Stratton's work. He's got some stuff on that. Free Thinking Ministries, if you want. That's not what we're discussing here today. Does quantum mechanics violate the PSR? No, it does not. because the principle of sufficient reason says there's a reason for everything that happens, and there's still a reason certain things happen in quantum mechanics. What's random is like decay rate. We don't know when something is going to decay, but there's still natural laws causing decay rate. So no, it does not at all. I want to start doing apologetics. Any tips? Also opinions on Calvinism. I find it problematic. Like elect. Yeah, I find Calvinism problematic as well. Apologetics, start doing shorts to build up an audience because people will see those more often, is what I would say. Thought in the interview Justin was going to say Sky Daddy. Is IP going to be on PBD next? Joking. Well, I'd love to be, but yeah, he used so many cringy atheist like Reddit arguments. Like one point we're talking about like how conservatives tend to move towards a culture of like morality and tradition, and liberals tend to say, hey, so hedonism is okay, just do whatever you want. And he goes, yeah, but children are getting abused in churches. It's like, what does that have to do with the actual topic?
He's got a point. That does happen.
It does, yeah. And
hey, 2 + 2 is 4 too. You know that? That's true statement.
Brother, these nuts the Teen Titans have assembled. The Teen Titans.
Very rude.
Very nice.
IP or Than, I'll pay you $500 to knock out David Wood. I can't powerful than him. So.
He's taller than I am, so if he kneels down a little bit, maybe.
Yeah. Plus, it couldn't happen because.
So. Oh yeah, we talked about that when we were in Texas. I remember that. In Tank.
So if you don't know Justin from Deconstruction Zone, he is a militant anti-theist. He does like live TikToks where he just debates with Christians and asks them why God is torturing people in hell and why God is a sociopath and this kind of stuff. And so I wasn't know what to expect when I met him, but he was actually very cordial and nice in public, totally unlike his YouTube online persona. Very nice guy, very cordial. But the problem is he just said a lot of things that were just factually wrong. Like at one point, he claimed Seneca called for the abolition of slavery. That was a lie. He claimed China abolished slavery at one point. That was a lie. He claimed India abolished slavery at one point. That was a lie. He claimed the most likely place that child sexual abuse occurs is at church. That is a lie. He claimed that the New Testament states Christians should be celibate and not reproduce. That is a lie. And Tim called him out on air during some of these. Now, was he just mistaken? Was he being intentionally deceitful? I don't know. But I think I'm more inclined to think he was just simply wrong. But these were just simply lies. There was a lot of that happening where he's just throwing out these random facts that were just completely wrong.
Now, who's this Justin guy?
His channel is Deconstruction Zone, where he helps people deconstruct because he's one of those people that thinks it'd be better if we just deconstructed and got rid of religion.
So, like, what is he, an atheist or something? He's an atheist?
Yeah. He is, yeah.
What? Yeah, see, here's what's always interesting when you're talking about him just getting everything wrong. It's like, it's one thing to get everything wrong. It's another thing entirely to get everything wrong and view yourself as the champion of reason and logic, and everyone else is stupid and you're the smart one and stuff, which is what I see from like the fortunately, the new atheism has been fizzling out a little bit, but it was always like that. It's always like, I can listen to you guys for 5 minutes and hear 487 things you got wrong. And your takeaway is that you're the smart ones who are the champions of science and facts and who don't go with your feelings. And you just, you just go where the evidence points. And yet somehow every single thing you say is wrong. It's just weird. It's like insane.
Yeah. Let's get into some of that here. Cause I got some clips saved up, which were pretty evident. So let's dive in.
You know what's funny?
Societies that abolished slavery many thousands of years prior to the U.S.
Yeah, it was a lot of that. Yeah.
There was a dynasty in China in the BC era that abolished slavery for a time period. There was a leader in India for a period of a couple hundred years where slavery was abolished. There were Stoics in Greece that were abolitionists.
No, there weren't. There weren't any Stoics.
There actually was. Seneca.
Epic. No, he did not say slavery should be abolished. No.
Seneca
Epictetus was, for example, an early slave.
Seneca absolutely advocated for getting rid of slavery, said it was an immoral institution. There
was immoral. He didn't say it should go away.
There was quite a few Stoics that agreed with him.
They agreed slavery was bad, but they didn't call for abolition. The first person that called for the abolition of slavery, Gregory of Nyssa.
That is wrong.
No, Gregory of Nyssa is the first person.
He's the first Christian that talked about abolishing slavery, but he was outruled by the other church fathers.
Exactly,
The other church
absolutely
fathers
was.
disagreed with
But
him.
no, he's the first person in history to call for the
So he
abolition.
certainly is not the first person in history. In fact, I already quoted you. There's I think the Wing dynasty in China, and then there's another dynasty in India that abolished it.
No, I'm
way
talking
before
about
I have
a universal abolition. That was
yeah,
Gregory
that
of
was
Nyssa.
universally abolitioned.
I have a fact check. Seneca did not explicitly advocate for abolishing slavery. While he criticized the mistreatment of slaves and encouraged humane treatment, he accepted slavery as a social institution.
Did he
The
ask
sources for this are
ChatGPT?
moral letters to
Yeah, he
Lucilius.
did
letter
AI.
40.
He checked out AI.
Let me see.
Yeah, basically. But I mean, he's right. Like Tim had to fact check him live on air because he was saying that Seneca called for the abolition of slavery. He was claiming that some place in India called for the abolished.
Aha! I
slavery.
got
And
you.
he was
IP.
kind of
Look at
doing
this.
face!
I just asked ChatGPT. Look at this. Haha. I just asked, did Seneca call for abolishing slavery? It said no. Seneca did not call for the in your favor. Okay. No.
Yeah. So here's the thing about, I looked this up after. In China, they didn't abolish slavery in the 1st century under Wang Mang. He outlawed the slave trade between like 9 and like 23 AD. But then the moment he was he died, it came back. He did not actually like emancipate slaves everywhere or call for masters to free their slaves like Gregory of Nyssa did. He just
it's important. Those are very different things. Like the transatlantic slave trade was abolished before slavery was. I mean, they stopped the transatlantic slave trade long before you actually had a civil war, and then slavery was abolished. Slavery still continued. You just had to reproduce your slaves and stuff like that. You kept your slaves, and your slaves reproduced and so on. You just couldn't transport. You just couldn't get them from across the Atlantic anymore. So, yeah, notice we normally don't say that the stopping the transatlantic slave trade was the abolition of slavery, because it wasn't. There was still slavery going on. That was abolishing it completely was a later thing.
I tried to find his India thing, and this is the best thing I could find was just what they say here on Wikipedia, because I don't know what specific area he was talking about. A Greek writer, Megasthenes, in his 4th century BCE work, Indica, states that slavery was banned within this empire in India. Don't know how to pronounce that. While the multilingual mid-3rd century BCE edicts of Oshaka independently identify obligations to slaves and hired workers. So what I think happened is he heard something that a Greek author talked about slavery being abolished in India, but actual works from India of the time, don't actually say slavery was abolished during that time. Mm-hmm. It's probably just a misunderstanding of the Greeks in the West, misunderstanding the cultures in the East. So no, there was not a time in India when slavery was abolished. There was not a time in China when slavery was abolished. The slave trade was temporarily abolished for a few years. The Stoics didn't call for abolishing slavery. The first people to call for ending slavery were Christians. That's just a fact. And real quick, because Dan and I got to do a response next week, but Gregory was the first to call for the abolition of slavery. Here's the thing. He didn't, and some historians would be like, well, he didn't, because he didn't say that. But he did. He told masters to free their slaves. He was the first person to do that, saying like, hey, this shouldn't exist. It's wrong. It's evil. Go free your slaves. So like historians that have commented more deeply on this say that, his arguments are abolition, even though he's not saying the government to go do it. He's the first one to start saying masters actually go out and do this actively. So this is why we don't see the abolitionist calls until Gregory of Nyssa. Prior to that, no one was saying that slavery can be abolished. So yeah. All right, let me get to the next clip here. Anything you want to add to that, Than, or should we just move on?
I've been looking stuff up to try to find anything that he could have been pointing to, and I'm not finding anything.
So you can't prove him wrong.
Mm-hmm.
Or
so here,
hey, you could.
No, I was trying to steel man him. I was trying to find things for him.
No, hey, what you should say when that pops up, when someone like that says something, you say, hey, give us the source on that. Show us the source on that. And then when you're supposed to respond, just say that which can be asserted without evidence can be dismissed without evidence.
Oh, is that testimony you're using? Sorry, it's not evidence.
in the 90s, Sweden, I could be wrong, but I don't think the importing of Somali refugees and migrants was specifically related to a low population.
They had declining birth rates for many decades.
The Bible tells you not to have kids. Jesus himself says it's better for you to be a eunuch for the gospel. Paul,
This is what I mean with
You lying
Justin.
idiot.
Jesus.
Okay,
Jesus said it?
dude, that's all I needed
Wait,
to
wait.
hear from this dude.
Did you just say Jesus said it?
yes. Let me back up a little bit. This is what I mean with Justin.
Jesus did talk about eunuchs and so on, people who are eunuchs for the kingdom of God and stuff. But this guy just said people should stop having kids according to
He would
Christianity.
just like Tim and I would be talking about like declining birth rates, and he's like, "Yeah, but the Bible says don't have kids." What are you talking about? So Tim was just getting fed up with him at this point. And you'll
Was
see
specifically
why.
related to a low population.
They had declining birth rates for many decades.
the Bible tells you not to have kids. Jesus himself says it's better for you to be a eunuch for the gospel. Paul advocates in first.
Bible says don't have kids, guys.
Wow.
That's what he
So-
said.
You can make a meme out of this, man.
Yes. When it says be fruitful and multiply. When it says be fruitful and multiply, it means multiply not having kids.
No, it means be full with fruits. Put fruits in your mouth. Eat fruits. Lots of them.
Be a vegan.
in 1 Corinthians chapter 7 that if you're married, it's better that you remain as though you're not married because the present world is coming to an end. He says, if you're single, stay single. I would rather you be like me, be unmarried to serve the
Are we
gospel.
talking about whether
There's-
Christianity is
There's
true
not
or
a
the effects
single
of Christianity?
teaching in the Bible that says you should have kids.
Are we talking about whether Christianity is true or the effects of
What
Christianity?
I'm saying is we're rooting this to what the book says. Christianity is rooted in the book. And you're saying, listen, because like Christianity is diminishing, that's causing lower birth rates. But
It
that's
is.
not actually the case.
But
There's
is.
nothing
I-
in Christianity that teaches you to have kids.
I do think that's very
That's right, folks. There's nothing in Christianity that teaches you to
Yeah.
have kids. It's definitely not in the first chapter of the first book of the Bible. It's definitely not there, ladies and gentlemen. Tim, you'll watch. Tim was getting fed up with him here.
selective because you are
Exactly.
ignoring be fruitful and multiply. I mean, if we're going to
That's a
say
Jewish teaching.
sure,
part
it's
of
in
the Christian Bible.
and if you want
Sure,
to,
and so is slavery. But you
Okay, so it's a
wouldn't
moot
let
point.
me use slavery. You would say,
That's-
no, that's not in the New Testament.
but
That's not what I was
hold on.
arguing now.
The point made on slavery was that
so common. This is so common. This whole thing. Well, why do you reject? Why do you reject a teaching of the Bible, but then you reference another teaching of them? It's just every single thing that is mentioned in the Bible is one and the same to some of these people who attempt to criticize the Bible. So, which means if you reject something within the Bible of the Old Testament as not valid or not applicable to those bound in the New Testament, then you have to reject everything that is in the Bible, that is in the Old Testament.
You know what's
Or
funny about this
vice
is
versa. It's ridiculous.
is later on in this he starts to try to argue with you, Mike, about slavery in the Bible,
Mhm.
but like by his own logic, that's a Jewish teaching, not a Christian one.
No, he would. He'd probably go to like places like Ephesians, like slaves obey your masters, and so he'd try to use that. I'd say, but I mean, again, you just read the context of like the letter of Philemon or
Yeah.
Ephesians 6, and Paul's saying do the same likewise. So yeah,
was that everybody did it. Christians did it. Christians abolished it. Christians supported it. Christians opposed it. So it's moot.
But the unquestionable
Bible-
God says to do it. That's the problem.
And then Christians eventually said, actually, that actually defies some of the teachings. They get rid of it. I think it's a moot point to claim.
But there's no
Christians-
teaching that says you can't own slaves. Not a single word of the Bible says that owning a slave is a sin.
again, it's not about whether Christianity is true; it's about the actual effects we see in society. You may
which
think
was your
these
first
effects-
point.
Yeah, you
But
may
well,
think
if-
the Bible will cause
Yeah,
X,
let's
Y, and Z.
divorce
It
Christianity from the
doesn't.
Bible. I'm all for it.
But let's
The
look
sooner
real
we
quick.
can do that, the sooner it becomes the sooner it's less toxic religion.
I just want to
toxic.
make this one point before we move on, is that you've selected from the Bible only one thing to support your claim. You didn't have to do that. You could have literally said, I do know that the Bible both says to have kids and not to have kids, but then there's no argument to be made. So it seems like you did that intentionally.
I didn't do it intentionally. In the New Testament, that's the Christian doctrine. The last thing that is said about having families is to not do it.
What does it specifically say?
It says in 1 Corinthians chapter 7 that the present form of the world is coming to an end. In Matthew chapter 19, Jesus advocates for people being eunuchs to the gospel. Let me find it real quick.
And Paul also
Says-
says just before that, this is my own word, not a word from the Lord.
His disciples said to him, if such is the case, talking about divorce, saying that you can't remarry a woman, if such is the case of a man and a wife, it is better to not marry. Then he said to them, not everyone can accept this teaching, but only those to whom it is given. For there are eunuchs who have been so from birth, and there are eunuchs who have been made eunuchs by others, and there are eunuchs who have made themselves eunuchs for the sake of the kingdom of heaven. Let anyone accept this who can. And then
just
in
read
1
it.
Corinthians
It
chapter
certainly
7,
sounds like you're twisting what that actually
It doesn't say.
no, he says,
It doesn't say to all people everywhere don't have kids.
I never said that's what it says. Jesus
But
says,
the Bible does say
That's literally what he said. He's
He
opened
just
this
read it,
whole.
man.
This is
Well,
like
now-
a textbook example of just leaving fundamentalism behind to be a fundamentalist atheist.
He said earlier, the Bible says don't have kids. We all heard it. I played it twice.
Yes.
Now he's saying I never said that. Yes, you did. That's what started this whole thing. So he's like, did he forget or is he lying? Like he literally said the Bible says don't have kids. No, it doesn't. No, it says that if you can accept this, then be a eunuch for the kingdom. You're muted, David. You're muted, David.
Oh yeah, and I mean, if you look at it, okay, Jesus had stuff to do and didn't get married. John the Baptist had stuff to do and didn't get married. The idea is some people have a lot of stuff to do, and that if you're able to do that, if you're able to just focus on going around the world and preaching the gospel and so on, and you don't, hey, I don't need a family. I'd rather be doing this. Oh, okay, you're in a different category of person. And that's it. And guess what? There are people like that. There are people who say, you know what? I'm just going to go around and I'm going to dedicate my life to preaching and speaking and so on. And I'm not going to have a family. Jesus, hey, if you're wired like that, then roll with it. You see, therefore, no kids in Christianity. Okay, now you're an idiot.
Yeah, it's like he literally said the Bible says don't have kids in the weirdest possible context, and yeah, it was getting kind of like that. So let's move on to this other.
Making kids is forbidden in Christianity.
Islam is predicted to be the fastest growing religion in the United States as Christianity declines.
and that's a huge problem.
that is a fucking huge problem.
And why are we seeing that? Because we can see in real time what secularism, the secularization of America and Europe is doing. Declining birth rates, lower levels of charity. In fact, John Compton and Philip Gorski, Roger Brubaker have pointed out, as Christianity has been declining, we're seeing a less value and appreciation for democratic values, more rise of right-wing and left-wing authoritarianism. This is coming out of the actual data we're seeing.
Let me just.
How does the data point to less Christianity, more totalitarianism? Because that's
good
not
question.
true in any of the other countries.
Let me just.
If you just look at the other democratic nations that have de-Christianized, we're not seeing that they're being they're going
which
into
one?
extremism. So almost
You
all
don't
of the
see authoritarianism in Europe?
Denmark, Norway.
I'm sorry, you need to go to those countries. They call Sweden the North Korea of the North.
So you're
you're
picking on Sweden, but
Absolutely.
have you looked at any of the other countries?
I did.
Germany
and
Because they rate very well on the democratic and the happiness scale
that's
every single year.
complete and utter BS.
So the people collecting that
North
information
Korea
is all
does.
lying to you.
Just like North Korea does, right? The people of North Korea vote for Kim Jong-un 98% every single time. The media in these countries is
Let's get it to
homogenous and under deep authoritarian control.
Yeah, I mean, listen, know your environment. You're going on Timcast, right-wing media that constantly criticizes Europe, and you're saying, actually, they have more freedom over there than us. It's like, dude, he's been to Europe, and he goes on to give this story about when he was in Europe. He felt the authoritarian and control. And it's like, no, that's not going to fly here, buddy. That's what Tim does. This is his shtick. He's always fighting against government control on media. But he actually thought he could make that argument at Timcast.
It's also not a great argument or not a great objection because many of these countries, given the long history of the world so far and the long history of Europe and of Christianity so far, many of these countries that we are speaking of are still pretty much Christian countries, or you could at best call post-Christian countries. So they are very much still in the process of moving from Christianity, even if they are like demographically, even if they have become demographically very non-Christian, they're still very much Christian, and they are currently transitioning to something different, and they are replacing it with things like Islamic influence, for example, where Muslims come and say, no, we don't want anybody being allowed to disrespect our religion. Say, okay, let's do that. Let's make that law. So it's not a great argument to say all those countries are doing very, very well. They are in the middle of a process that is quite quite recent.
It's called
Well,
they call that a cut flower. They call that a cut flower civilization, right?
Yeah.
You've got the flower, it's in the soil, it's living, it's thriving. You cut it. Guess what? It still looks the same. Still looks the same. But it slowly starts to wither.
Yeah.
Well, you've lived in Germany, AP. Which do you think is more authoritarian, Germany or America?
Well, when it comes to free speech issues, individual freedom, America is definitely freer than Germany.
Yeah, I'm trying to find that video I have because, like, I actually got a video clip. I don't know where I put the dang thing though. Of like these people in they're in 60 Minutes recently went to Germany and they were talking to all like
Oh,
the
yeah, that was
lawyers over
awful.
there.
That was one of the worst
Yeah.
things ever, man. I had no idea things were that bad.
I was personally, last time I went to Germany just a few weeks ago, a month ago, I was detained because
Someone said you hurt their feelings.
yeah, because because I went to a pro-Palestine protest and all I did was literally I stood there and I said here we have somebody who stands up for the victims of terrorism, and here on the other side we have people who stand up for terrorism and rape and support Hamas and all that. But just because of that, people got upset and mad and accused me of insulting and slandering them, for which the police then came over and said, we have to detain you temporarily to take a statement from you, and you will be receiving a court letter soon, and so on. It's like for insulting people.
But like,
or
I
whatever.
was talking to John Compton earlier this week. He's a social and political scientist. He's working on a new book called Untethered Belief. And one of the things he's arguing is as we move away from organized religion, weekly church attendance, respect for democratic values does go down. The less people that are in church, the less likely people are to support democratic values, the more they're going to shift towards authoritarian type systems. What the hell do we see happening in Europe right now? Rise of authoritarianism throughout the region as Christianity has declined over the past several decades. These things are not just coincidences. Actual research has been tying them together, like the 2021 Stroop study I've cited often.
And it was predicted long ago. You had people like Francis Schaeffer pointing out, but just the basics. Either you have a population that's controlled from within, meaning that individuals actually respect virtue and so on, or you'll have a population that is controlled from without. So you either have something that is internal to the average person where they want to live in a certain way, and this leads to a kind of cultural self-control, in which case you can have the kind of freedoms that we have in the West, or you can start rejecting those kinds of things and you'll still need to be controlled. You'll be controlled by your government.
Mm-hmm. Here, I found the video file from 60 Minutes.
Illegal to display Nazi symbolism, a swastika, or deny the Holocaust. That's clear. Is it a crime to insult somebody in public?
Yes, it is.
It's
you bunch of scumbag douches. Lock me up. I just insulted you, you stupid idiot clowns. But anyway.
But Germany's higher on the freedom index, ladies and gentlemen. Just remember that.
And it's a crime to insult them online as well?
Yes.
The fine could be even higher if you insult someone in the internet.
Why?
Because in internet, it stays there. If we are talking...
That's right.
It lasts longer. Think, if you insult someone on street, they just kind of evaporate. They just evaporate like your freedom, right? But now we say that if you put it on internet, it lasts long. It does not just evaporate like your freedoms.
Why do you sound like Borat?
I don't know.
Yeah, why?
I forgot. Yeah. I got my real German.
Oh man.
Yeah. Du hast recht.
Imagine all of the Call of Duty public lobbies, man. Everybody would just be screwed.
Good point.
I can't imagine looking at some of these freedom indexes and thinking Germany and Sweden have more freedom than the U.S. It's like, listen, we got our problems here, ladies and gentlemen, but just use some common freaking sense. I'm sorry.
Well, they as far as I remember, it's been a long time since I looked into that, but as far as I remember, they count certain things into it, which puts America, which really takes lots of points away from America, such as freedom in politics and freedom in media, where they count certain things such as how freely political movements and organizations and individuals can organize and run for, a voice or power in the parliament. It is very difficult to do in America, for example. You have to rely on the two parties and all that. In Germany, it's very, very, or in other European countries, it's very common just to create a new party and then to run and to become relevant. Press is much more diverse than it is in America. I guess these points kind of are not very much in favor of America when it comes to evaluating freedom. But other than that, individual freedoms, America is freer. Freedom of speech, America is freer than any of those countries.
Yeah, it's how they weight the different metrics, and that just is incredibly biased thing to do. So here's one of my favorite clips. I was watching this and taking notes on how Tim handled this. He did so good. It was phenomenal because Justin starts challenging Tim and Tim just throws it right back in his face. And it is glorious.
Which is weird because the data says that they're happier, they live longer, they're healthier.
Well, I can address that. Absolutely true. There was one of the most famous studies on choice and happiness was they brought people into they pitched a bunch of people. Would you like to do a study? Everybody says yes, right? They get their two groups, the control group and their study group. And they said, the study is to fill out this questionnaire. When you're done, you'll get a free t-shirt. Whenever everybody fills out the questionnaire, what they didn't realize the real study was, as they're leaving, one group was handed a free white t-shirt. They said, thank you. The other group was told, you can have the green, white, or blue t-shirt. Then they got to choose. As they were walking, they said, please rate your satisfaction with your experience here. Guess what? The people who got to choose the color of shirt they wanted rated higher levels of unhappiness because they were unsure of themselves. That was actually a surprising finding in which they found, as Harriet Tubman said, to go back to slavery, I have freed many slaves. I would have freed many more if only they knew they were slaves. Ignorance is bliss. I think unhappiness comes with freedom and hard choices being made. To look at
what
these.
company did that survey?
This is an old internet trope on
okay. So you're not referring to any methodology that's actually being used by like the World Happiness Index that's been doing this for decades.
So you're doing credentialism and an appeal to authority.
No, I'm just saying that
that's an appeal to authority.
You're saying that the way they're doing the studies is improper. I want to know who's doing it that way.
Well, how are they doing the study?
I'm asking you. You're saying
no. You cited an organization.
You're the one
and
telling
you're trying
me
to do
that they're
credentialism.
doing it a particular way. I want
how
to
are they
know.
doing it? How are they doing it? How are they doing it?
I don't know. I haven't looked.
You don't know. Whoa! You cited an organization. You don't even know what they're doing.
What I'm saying, I'm asking you.
I didn't say that.
I'm asking who's doing it that way.
You brought up those surveys.
I did. Yeah.
Okay. So what do they do? How do they rate them?
Again, I don't know the methodology.
Okay. So let's just.
I never claimed to know.
Let's just ignore that you brought up a point you don't even understand because that makes you look really dumb.
The other,
whoa. Very rude. Very rude.
He let him have it. He was not. You don't challenge Tim on his show. He will let you have it. He does this every day. He's got the experience. If he let him have it, you look dumb when you do that. Like,
my gosh,
that's pretty brutal, man, for a guest, man.
Yeah, that's abuse of a guest.
At no point was there anything in anything you said that could be regarded as a coherent.
We are all now dumber because of this.
Here's the thing. Just to make IP's point here, and others, I would always encourage everyone to check out RSF, the Reporters Without Borders, who check World Press Freedom Index. They put this thing together, which is very, very well known, where they evaluate the change of press freedom in Europe over the last decade, and it is very clear. They even have I can send a link to you on that IP, but they have a very easy comparison where press freedom on average in Europe was significantly better in 2003 into 2013 compared to 2024. So just over the last 10 years, there has been like significant difficulty into a worse direction.
Oh yeah, it's insane.
And again, that is exactly what was predicted. It's as you lose your source of internal control, you're going to require more external control. That's physics, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah, I mean, John Witt Jr. said, I mean, a regime of law, democracy, and human rights requires religion. And specifically, he was talking about Christianity. When you move away from this idea that human rights are sacred and given by God, you start to think that government is what gives rights. And if you're in the government, you give and grant and take rights based on what your needs are as a government. So this is a huge problem. If there is no sacred call to protect human rights, what is stopping governments from removing them, limiting them? Nothing. And again, this is why we see this bearing out in the research. So, I mean, just go to like Rule into Salem's study, the role of Protestantism in democratic consolidation among transitional states. He notes, it's funny because that's a really interesting paper because he also looks at Islam. All of his metrics, he found Islam was not significant with any of them, but with Catholicism and more so Protestantism, he found positive associations with things like citizen empowerment, voice and accountability, more NGOs, more political stability. I mean, like, this is just what the facts are on the ground when you start looking at the actual research. Go. Now, what are your guys' favorite Bible verse?
I
think everyone froze.
I'll say it. I thought you guys were going to jump in, but First Timothy there, where Paul says, "I thank Christ Jesus our Lord, who has given me strength, that He considered me faithful, appointing me to His service, even though I was once a blasphemer and a persecutor and a violent man. I was shown mercy because I acted in ignorance and unbelief." That whole passage is pretty good.
I feel
violent ex-con. What?
I feel ashamed because I just had to look it up because I forgot the reference, but it's 2 Timothy 4:7. I have fought the good fight. I have finished the race. I have kept the faith. I want that on my gravestone.
I don't know which verse it was, but I think it was in Exodus 22, which was in my mind when I first read it. I thought this is very different from the Quran, which said something about do not oppress the foreigner, for you yourself were foreigners, or something like that. Yeah,
mine is
that's an early version of the Golden Rule.
Yeah, it's powerful.
I had to look mine up too. Mine is 1 Peter 5:10. And the God of all grace, who called you onto His eternal glory in Christ, after that you have suffered for a little while, shall Himself perfect, establish, and strengthen you.
IP, you said you wanted that on your gravestone. I mean, you are missing a golden opportunity here, man. I mean, imagine your gravestone just says Mike Jones and then who right underneath it. And that's it. That's your entire gravestone. Mike Jones.
Yes.
Who? That's it.
Listen, I've not even gotten that in like 10 years. Like, I think people have just sort of forgotten about that rapper at this
Everyone
point.
But me.
Everyone but you. Yes, absolutely. Bro, thank God you debate that human. I debated him in a live. I'm talking about Justin. I had to cut the call because I was losing IQ points just listening to him. And Justin was really nice to me off camera. On camera, he's a different person. But like the constant interrupting he does on his lives, it's no wonder he just pisses Christians off because you can't even get a point in anyway because he keeps changing the subject, throwing out red herrings, interrupting you.
And dude, it's seriously a problem. People don't realize if you have a person who's just willing to just make up anything, that's rough, man.
Oh, and he has called me a liar in his lives. He did one where he's doing one. God is Christianity is Stockholm syndrome, and he directly said, I am a liar. So I have no problem calling out his lies here because of
Mike Jones.
Love the stream. Any of you know who Young Don is and thoughts on his deconversion?
I'll say it too. What a lying douche. Sorry.
there, David said it.
I do know Young Don, and I also had a conversation with him in the past. Funnily enough, I had a conversation with him a while ago when he first became a Christian, and I kind of clashed a little bit with him because I asked him questions because he kind of challenged me on why I don't believe, and then we had a little clash, and I found out just recently that he apparently. But the thing is, he never was. His belief was always kind of weird. I think he had this kind of this oneness belief or rejection of
the Trinity.
Yeah,
Did
but
he reject the Trinity?
but then also something with predestination. I don't know what it was, but he had very wild beliefs and a lot of this tendency to just reject teachings or to learn them, to accept them, and then to reject them after a week or so after thinking, oh no, this doesn't make sense to me. I predicted that he will probably switch to a different religion or just leave altogether, and it happened.
Yeah, I mean, the problem is these atheists are going to rejoice over that, and they're destroying the West. They're going to destroy the world because they're just going to create a society that has abysmally bad birth rates, high levels of authoritarianism, which will cause political chaos ultimately, and they'll just open the door for Islam to come in and start repopulating the declining birth rate. So I don't understand these atheists. They should be praying to science more and more Christians come onto the scene because it's the only thing preventing the West from falling at this point. And we see it now with what secularism is doing. And that's one of my main points here. If you atheists actually care about preserving civilization, human rights, women's rights, you should be begging for the world to produce more Christians, not trying to actively deconvert them. You're going to be part of the problem ultimately if you keep doing what you're doing.
Both.
That's something that, I mean, people don't realize that you have lots of movements and so on, that you can only have that movement because you have a sort of a population, a basic population sustaining your ability to do things like that. As a simple example, I mean, think of like anarchists, right? If anarchists experience like 5 seconds of actual anarchy, they would be begging to be as far away from anarchy as possible, because these little dorks would get the taste slapped out of their mouth instantly if there wasn't laws protecting them from people like me slapping the crap out of them, right? So that they're running around saying anarchy, and yet they're only able to run around screaming anarchy because they have a system of laws protecting idiots while they say stupid things. But I mean, really, all kinds of things. I mean, take feminism, right? Take feminism. The overall takeaway, by the way, totally good things about feminism and so on as far as rights and all kinds of things like that. But what ends up happening is you end up with a portion of the feminist population who doesn't go in the direction of having families and raising kids and so on. What happens? Birth rates plummet. Your government is going to make sure that the population is sustained. So they will bring in people who have very different ideas from you feminists. And you, guess what? You have very low birth rates. They have very high birth rates. What happens? You ultimately lose the foundation that allowed you to argue for feminism, and you'll be replaced. And then what happens at the end? Skip to the end. No feminism. Zero. None of it. You're adopting ideologies and positions that ultimately undermine your own ideology and position and completely destroy it. And so it's the same thing. It should be, hey, if we want this, like if you're an anarchist and you want the freedom to run around and say anarchy, man, anarchy, you should be begging for a Christian population that protects idiots like you. So anyway, that's the situation. If you're a feminist and you want to be a feminist, you should still think, hey, it's really good if we have a Christian population out there that protects people like me to say these kinds of things, because there are other populations in the world that would eat me for breakfast.
Yep.
There's a funny example to this, which is that in the last elections, in the recent elections in Germany, the among gay people, I think the most popular party was the right wing.
You said gay people.
Yeah, was the right wing AfD, the AfD, which some people found shocking, but isn't actually that shocking, because gay people start walking around and thinking we can't comfortably walk around here anymore because of the Muslim population. Things used to be a little bit different. We went toward freedom, and then these guys came in and started like bullying and pushing us around and this and this and that, and we don't really want that. So
yeah, that's a perfect example, right? So if you're gay, LGBTQ, whatever, you're gonna have some Christians who tell you you're wrong. You're gonna have some Christians telling you that you're wrong. They're going to say, hey, we disagree with you, you're wrong. That's very different from what you'd get under Islamic rule.
Yes.
And so it's a situation where, hey, we don't like these guys. We don't like these guys telling us that we're wrong and saying that we're wrong. So we need to be against these guys. We need to get away from these Christians. They say we're wrong. So let's align our entire movement with Islam because they're persecuted too. And then, wait a minute. These guys actually want to murder us. Hey, wait a minute. These guys over here, they just said we were wrong. These guys actually want to kill us. And
Well. That's what you get.
Also, Tim's argument that neither Christians nor secular people ended slavery was super weak was honestly flabbergasted. Yeah, I mean, it's just a fact of history that Christians ended slavery, and we're arguing from Christian moral foundations as to why slavery should be abolished. We wouldn't be here today if that did not happen. If Christianity did not become the dominant religion of the West, slavery would still exist. I mean, again, this comes from Robert Fogel, Rodney Stark, Tom Holland, John Coffey, Ben Wright. I mean, just everyone I can read on it is saying this.
I still wonder to this day, and I mean, I used to teach philosophical ethics at Fordham. Apart from just saying it, what defense can an atheist have for abolishing slavery? Like what do you have that's persuasive? What idea do you have that you could actually defend and say this is the correct idea and this shows that slavery is morally wrong? What is it in your lack of belief in God that convinces you that it's wrong to own another person? I can own this cup. I can even own living things. I can own a dog. I can own a cow. Why can I own those things and not own a human being? What is it in your worldview that makes it a moral abomination to own another person? I don't know. I understand where you get that if you believe that human beings are created in the image of God and that you should treat other people the way you want to be treated. I don't want someone enslaving me. Therefore, okay, I shouldn't be doing that to other people. I understand where you get this from a Christian framework. To this day, I have zero clue how you get that from an atheist framework, except just saying it. You could just say it. And what really happened, what's really going on when you just say it is, Justin, you were raised in a population that taught you to believe that taught you to believe that slavery is wrong. You were raised in a population that was massively influenced by Christians who convinced the population that slavery is wrong. And then you absorbed the idea. Even though you're an atheist, you got it from your population. And what's insane is that's exactly what atheists say about religion. It's, you just believe what you were taught in your society. Therefore what? Therefore it's wrong? Okay, you were taught that slavery is wrong. Give me a defense, a rational defense that's consistent with your worldview. And if you can't, where'd you get the idea? We know where you got the idea. If it doesn't cross people's minds for thousands of years of human history that slavery is wrong, and then we see the people who introduce the idea that slavery is wrong, and then you grow up in a population that has massively influenced that idea, and then you say, I just know. No, you don't just know. You grow. It's just a coincidence that you grew up in the population that taught you that that's wrong, and that other human beings for many, many thousands of years around the world, it never crossed their minds that it's wrong. Like how are you not processing this super smart scientific atheist?
Are the Jews of today still bound to the old laws? I don't think they have to be, but I think if they want to keep them, it's fine. That's up to them, like their feasts and everything like that. The Dizzle, 1 + 1 + he'll allow it. AP allows it. The Dizzle, 1 + 1 + 1 + 1 = 1. I got to use that in a remix sometime. IP, I debated Matt Slick on TD in my first debate. Do you know any good debates on the topic for a rookie? I could use some more experience. Any good debate topics?
What's TD?
That's what I was wondering. I don't know what TD is. Maybe
I can look up his channel quick and see what he. Yeah.
Well, Matt Slick's a Calvinist, so maybe theological determinism or something like that. I don't know. I'm just guessing based on topics that Matt Slick frequently covers.
Yeah, I'd look up maybe stuff that Tim Stratton has done on that, if that's what it is. I mean, sometimes it's better not to abbreviate things, folks, because we don't know all the abbreviations. John the Presbyter. IP, I'm going to cite historians and studies. DZ, I'm going to cite Reddit forums and our atheist TP. I'm going to call out DZ's BS. Ian, I'm going to do psychedelics, watch the walls shift back and forth, develop a Messiah complex. And yeah.
With TD's
total depravity is what I.
Oh, total depravity. That makes sense. That makes more sense. Yeah.
Is that what you found, AP?
No, I was going to say tasty dogs because that's what Goat said. But whatever.
No,
okay.
total depravity makes perfect sense.
Yeah, I was going to say that
Matt
too.
Slick debate.
Total depravity. I mean, just look up Calvinism versus Armenian debates. I'd say just to go in that direction. But yeah. Here's a tip asking for you to hit the next arrogant atheist with an RIP bozo next time you have a zinger in a debate. Is everyone on the panel a theistic evolutionist? If yes, then why do you all believe in the old Earth is right? Well, because there's just so much scientific evidence the Earth is incredibly
I didn't
old.
say
so
why. I
that's
just said
why.
that's what you believe.
Yeah, I'm a theistic evolutionist, and I think Than is as well. So
Yep.
no problem there. Good debaters. Oh, I mean, he was asking about good debaters. Check out some of the debates that James White has had with Catholics. I think they've done a good job responding to him, but I'm not sure, honestly. I've not looked at a lot of those debates specifically. I just stopped watching the video because of how ridiculous the other guy, that is Justin, was. Yeah, there was if you go to the comments under the Timcast episode, they're all just
Oh my
annoyed.
gosh.
Yeah, they are
roasting
all
him.
just roasting him. Yeah. I think he was nervous. I think he just thought he could come in and just start throwing stuff out and it would make sense. And it just didn't, man. Tim was not having it. Tim was not having it at all. Hey guys, given your upright moral rectitude, firm grasp on the matter.
Again, guys, the issue. What's that?
Are you okay, David?
David, I think you're like super lagging. You must be like lagging like a lot.
Yeah,
now
I
for
was
some weird
thinking that
reason.
too. I might jump out and then come back in.
Yeah, you
okay,
should
that
do
works.
that.
What are
You
you
should do
laughing
that.
What's so funny?
You're lagging. You're like
Just
having a
leave and
conversation
come
with things
back.
we said like 10 minutes ago.
He stopped you in the middle of saying the word rectitude.
I thought he had something to say on rectitude. I was like,
I've never used the
Hey,
word
guy-
rectitude in my life. So you guys are liars. I'm gonna jump out and come back in and see what happens.
okay. Hey guys, given your upright moral rectitude, firm grasp of the matter at hand, and hands-on approach to the conversational topics, including jizya and other loaded subjects, which one of you is the greatest mass debater? I get it. I get what you're doing there. You see it. We all see it, sir.
I would say it's definitely IP. Yeah.
Yes. I ordered atheist off Timu. Tim got it. That's mean.
Nice.
Hey guys, the biggest moral issue with the problems of slavery in the Bible for me is that somehow God chose to strictly forbid Hebrews from eating pork and shellfish, but owning other human beings, he makes an exception. Again, I go to Matthew 19. The law of divorce was given because your hearts were hard. I don't think the Hebrews could have accepted a society without slavery, but they could accept certain dietary restrictions. So God was working with where they were in their moral progress. I think that's what you got to take into account. How Jesus treats the Mosaic law. Some aspects were given because their hearts were hard.
I think that in the at a certain point in history, before humans became more populous and more intermingled and all of that, it was a completely reasonable and normal thing to do to enslave certain people if they insisted on attacking you and overcoming you and destroying you, because the alternative would be to just exterminate them. There was no real theory of sitting down and making a proper peace agreement with them or anything like that. In order to prevent destruction, your own destruction or the destruction of the other, the ideal thing would be to enslave them and to let them live that way until freedom comes. Of course, after societies developed into quite a different way, it was no longer reasonable to do, and no longer is.
Let me get to the next one here. Where was I? Sorry. I'm getting ready to debate Justin. That's Deconstruction Zone on Modern Day Debate. It was surprising to see you and him pop up on Timcast. Good stuff, bro. Yeah, thank you. Much appreciated for that. And I was happy to do it there. So real quick, I'm being told to play this because if I don't, I'll get in trouble. So
Matt
we
is
made
everywhere.
Matt is everywhere. Yes. Dang it! I cannot. I'm there. Okay. Here we go. All right, I have to play this. Has anyone ever told you the 5 books of Moses date to hundreds of years after he lived? We now have a 50-minute video debunking this claim that offers a ton of evidence that the Torah is much more ancient than most assume. The in-depth video is currently available for all ministry partners, so if you sign up to donate, you can watch it now. And the reason we're doing this is because we're still underfunded, so we need more supporters like you to donate monthly so we can keep making more videos like this. Please sign up to donate and you'll gain access to this in-depth video now. Boom, I recorded that today, and then Matt said I should play it tonight. Powerful.
That was powerful.
We're so official.
So if anyone would like to donate, we need the help. You can go to patreon.com/inspiringphilosophy or donate through inspiringphilosophy.org/give. I'll put the links below. Matt, put the links below. Matt!
Here, I'll take care
Matt!
of it.
Okay. Just gonna start calling Matt to do it. Okay. I'm gonna play another clip.
Hey,
Yeah.
Am I in sync now?
I think you're in sync now. Yeah.
Oh,
You were like
hey.
really delayed.
Hey guys, and let me go ahead and point out. Right here. Inspiring Philosophy. He's doing some important work that no one else is going to do, namely read all this stuff. Right? Like no, completely straight up. Daniel Hakikachu. He did the same thing in all his early debates. He had this, like every new Dawa guy who comes out, he does. Every new Dawa guy has to have some like trick. You have to, right? There's no. Let me just present what the evidence is and we'll debate. Everyone has to come out with some new trick, and that's how they become popular for a little while, and then eventually someone catches them on their trick, and then they implode. That's why these Dawa guys have sort of a short lifespans, not in terms of their actual lives, but in terms of their careers. But anyway, Daniel Hakikachu would still be getting away with this. He would still be getting away with it in debate. What was his trick? He'd go in there and, this study shows this, and this study shows that, and this study shows this, and this study shows that. And guess what? No one that he's going to run into is going to have read all these studies and so on, which means he would keep getting away with it, right? Because no one's reading all this stuff. Until he runs into IP, who's read all this stuff and who crushes him on it and shows he's completely misrepresenting everything out there. Point is, I'm glad IP's on our side, and please support his work so that he can keep crushing these dudes on the sources.
I have to agree. Since you debated Daniel Hakikachu, I think something changed. Like you broke him. I think he never really recovered. He never really recovered after that. He has had just failure after failure after that. So you have done some really fantastic work there.
Thank you. Yeah. Yeah, it took a lot of research to debate him, but it was definitely necessary. And yeah, they're not, you notice the Dawa guys are not doing as many debates as they were like 2 years ago. It's like they all got a meeting together.
Yeah, all their tricks have been exposed. You're basically gonna need some new one to come along with some new trick. That's what you're gonna need. And by the way, guys, that's my prediction. At some point in the very near future, you're gonna have a new Dawa guy who becomes very popular because he's got a new trick, and he'll be popular for about 2 years.
Yeah. So I've added the links below in the video description. If anyone wants to sign up to donate, you just refresh the page and there it is. So, all right, let's get back to the Timcast thing because there's a couple more clips I wanted to play. It's for you. For people that are in academia or the high levels of media, they have a purpose in society. But you tell the common man, hey, you're only going to live a good 70 years and you'll die, so just have as much fun. The common man is left with basically hedonism as his only fulfilling desire. Whereas if you go to Christianity, you tell the poorest of the poor, the creator of the universe died for you so that you can have eternal life. You're going to have motivations to be a moral person, to return love to the creator that gave to you, and to actually do what he said, like be fruitful and multiply,
which is weird because the most like statistically likely place that you're going to get sexually assaulted is at a church. And that is nothing to be talking about. No. It's all
Tim is not having it. Just like we're talking about, like, you know, Christianity helps people. Like, yeah, but you could get sexually abused in a church. It's like, okay, thanks, Justin. Back to the corner. When you're ready to contribute something, then you can come talk. I was like, dude, but first of all, that's just false. Like, all right, that's false. Let me share my screen because again, thank you to Matt for actually looking this up for me. But this is Sexual assault of young children as reported to law enforcement, victims, incident and offender characteristics, U.S. Department of Justice. I read this today. Here's what it says. 77% of sexual assaults with juvenile victims occurred in residence compared to 55% of adult victims. The most common non-residential locations for sexual assaults of juveniles were roadways, fields, woods, schools, hotels, and motels. Churches are not even listed.
How do we know that those roadways and schools and all that are not actually used as churches?
Yes, it's
That's
a church
true.
school. Some churches have schools, you see.
Yeah. This rain.org says 55 at home, 15 in public places, 12% near relatives' home, 12 in public areas such as parking lots or garage, 8 on school property. Again, churches are not listed. I have no clue where he was getting that statistic from.
Prove that the church is not near the victim's home.
This is one of those things which got popularized. which got popularized over the last 20 years with the whole attack on the Catholic Church and Catholicism and all of that, which did reveal some really bad issues and some scandals, which completely got twisted and turned into a really messed up, twisted attack and misrepresentation, where the public, the general population, was basically given the impression, and so many people are still under the impression, like this guy here that we're talking about, that the Catholic priests, they're all molesting people. Churches are terrible people. If you go to a church, you get raped. This is completely ridiculous nonsense that got propped up because of a scandal. And research shows that it really is that religious organizations or religious places have no signs of being more dangerous or more subject to sexual assault or anything compared to other places. So,
and it's really, again, the thing that always gets me is, what's this guy? Everything this guy's saying that you've shown so far is complete idiotic nonsense, and this will not be a problem for him with his audience, unless it's just, okay, you got caught. But that's what's amazing. It's like, we're the group that only goes with science, and we're the group that only goes with facts, and we're the group that only goes where the evidence points. And then everything you spout is like just your emotions about Christianity, because your grandma made you go to church, make you erupt in rage whenever it comes up and to make stuff up. And it's like, how, on what planet? You guys are like the kings of emotional rage at Christianity, not the kings of like careful investigation or science or anything else. It's weird to me. It's along the same lines as Islam, as Muslims claiming Islam's a religion of peace. It's like, hey, we're going to go around slaughtering you all in the name of Allah, but call us a religion of peace. That's like the level of the new atheism. We're going to spout complete idiotic nonsense, make things up left and right, but we want you to view us as the champions of reason and logic here. And sorry, how about no?
How about no? Yeah, just for those listening and who are under the false impression because of the media and all of that, there's a big Catholic Church scandal, and that's why they're most likely to have child sexual abuse and so on. It's complete nonsense. I know it's surprising to find out for some people, but it's complete nonsense. And there has been research on this. There is no such indication at all. This was propped up by the media and others in order to present this false picture of churches and of the Catholic Church. It's complete nonsense.
What were you going to say, Than?
Did he cite a study, or was it that?
I don't know. Tim, here we go back to the clip here. Tim just was not having it when he heard this, because it was completely irrelevant to the topic.
And that has nothing to do with what we're talking about.
It's almost like Christian values isn't preventing kids from getting raped.
And once again, you're not making an argument.
No, there is true. 30% of all rape cases for children under the age of 18 happen church-related. 30%. And
I'm gonna respond to that by saying blah blah blah, because the point we're making is that in prominent pop culture, there's a tendency among the right Christian conservatives not to be raping children, and there's a tendency among the left to.
But they keep doing it. It's weird.
It's weird that
the
not addressing
Christians
the argument we're making, and you're saying, "Hey, look at this instance of bad people doing bad things." I agree. Let's talk about the tendencies.
When it comes to
this is again, it was completely sidelining. Notice he sort of changes the argument. They're church related. Okay, well, what's the data that shows that? because again, I cited other data that shows that 77% of sexual assaults with juvenile victims occur in residences. So the numbers aren't adding up. So like, where is the statistic coming from here specifically? Why is it contradicting the data I found?
So that's what I want to know. Where's that 30% number coming from?
Science.
Who's this rock star?
This is Ian. He's Tim's like right-hand guy.
Like the church abusing children, which I agree over historically it seems to have. I think it's whenever you put a lot of kids in an area like daycare or something, there's just going to be a tendency for a lot of those kids to get abused because that's where kids are congregating. And for thousands of years, it was at church.
It's correlative, not causative. Anna Salter talks about this
Even
in her book
today.
Predators.
But hold on, like
today, 31%.
Again, you are changing the subject because you didn't have an answer.
No,
I'm not
your
going to let you
subject
do
was
it.
Christian morals going away because of atheism. But in Christian circles, they're still raping children today.
So let's pause. And once again, I will say you are not actually addressing what we were just talking about.
I'm literally addressing it right now. You're saying that atheists don't have moral systems.
They don't.
But neither do Christians.
Christians do.
What is a Christian moral system? Find me in the Bible where I can find a Christian moral system.
10 Commandments.
That people. Can you find me outside the Bible where those exist? Because they exist in the 42 laws of Ma'at. They exist in the 10 Commandments.
What?
There are no Christian moral systems. By the way, guys, the Bible tells you not to get married and have kids, and it tells you to have slaves. Did you know that? What is it?
It seems like whatever anyone says, I just want to say the opposite. That's what it sounds like with him.
Man.
Pretty much. And I may have misunderstood him here, but he sounded like he was saying like the 10 Commandments come from the 42 laws of Ma'at.
Christian moral system.
10 Commandments.
That people. Can you find me outside the Bible where those exist? Because they exist in the 42 laws of Ma'at. They exist in
the 10 Commandments. Do not exist in the 42 laws of Ma'at. That's a big conspiracy.
Almost every single commandment that you'll find in the 10 exists in every single culture.
I did. So the 42 laws of Ma'at is not commandments. They're not even laws. They're technically confessions. There's things you say to Ma'at when you get to the underworld. There's nothing in there about the Sabbath, only having one God, not making graven images, or honoring your father and mother. So like, yeah, there are things like don't lie, like don't steal, like don't covet, like, but it's not laws. It's I have not lied, I have not coveted, and I've had to deal with TikTok conspiracy theorists on this. So like when he brought that up, I was like, whoa, no, that is just wrong.
Plus, it's not even relevant. Did I just
what is that? Yeah, he's saying there's no moral system. Like, okay, here's a moral system. But other people have a moral system.
Exactly.
What?
It's not even relevant. It's not relevant. What does it matter? Even if it were true, what does it matter if it's also found somewhere else or if it also comes from somewhere else? It has no bearing on the conversation at all.
It just comes off like he's just trying to find something to save face at this point.
Yeah.
Here's what you were talking about earlier, David. Tim brought it up.
I didn't say
this isn't unique to Christianity.
I didn't say it was. Once again, you're not.
The 10th commandment says not to covet your neighbor's slave.
Atheists and agnostics don't have that moral structure.
No, we don't have a
Christians.
We don't have a God-given moral structure. It's a subjective moral structure.
In fact, American atheists actually have a loose Christian moral structure, and that's a fact.
Yes,
that's why. Absolutely, that's what we're talking about with cut stem ideology or whatever or politics.
Yeah, that's what you were talking about, David.
Hey, cut stem. Hey, also, it's interesting. Like, the atheists become enraged when you say they have no more atheism has no moral system or something like that. But these are the same guys who just spent the last 25 years telling us atheism is just a lack of belief in God. That's all it is an absence of belief. It's just an absence of belief. Okay, so it has no positive content because they didn't want to say it has positive content because the moment you say it has positive content, then you have to defend that. And so they didn't want to say it. So they just wanted to make it sound like it's the absence of something. Okay, well, if your ideology is just an absence of something, that means that there is no moral framework there, which means any moral framework you have, you're getting from somewhere else. You're getting that from somewhere else. All atheism is to you is an absence or a lack. Therefore, any positive content, you're getting it from somewhere else. Where are you getting it from? And anyway, yeah, we know where they're getting it from.
Yeah.
Very rude.
For sure. So here's where Tim just said the debate is over.
Or you could take a look at the transgender issue as well. Advocating for children to sterilize themselves or for parents to sterilize their children is not a Christian phenomenon.
And that's also, again, going to cause decreased fertility rates for people on the left, for the atheist, agnostic side of things. Meanwhile, on the Christian side, you have high fertility rates replacement population, preventing mass migration of Islam coming in with their Sharia law, and then ruining a lot of traditionally Christian countries with horrible
honestly,
values.
debate over.
Debate over. I mean, like, at the end of the day, can we survive without Christianity? If you just look at birth rates, there are so many other factors, but just that secularism is not producing a culture with sustainable birth rates. What's going to replace secularism? It's either going to be Christianity or Islam at the end of the day. Which do you prefer, atheists? Pick a side, because your system of secular atheism is not working. What do you want?
Which way,
Which
atheist?
way, modern man?
Which way, atheist man?
Like, I do not, like, they can see the writing on the wall, because I talked to Justin about this a little bit. Like, he recognizes Islam is horrible. He says it's worse than Christianity. Like, he recognizes that. But why are we trying to deconvert Christians all day in, day out, when Christians are the one holding back the avalanche of Islam that could come in and destroy the West? Like, they do not, they recognize Islam is bad, but then they want more Christians to become atheists or deconvert because they think that's going to make the world better. It isn't. The facts are in, ladies and gentlemen.
And Dawkins caught on to that over a decade ago. Over a decade ago, it was 2012, in an article where he said, "I have mixed feelings about the decline of Christianity because I think it may have been a bulwark against something worse." And so this is like one of the champions, I mean, the main guy of the new atheism movement, saying, "Guys, we may have a little problem here when we're blasting away at Christianity, because it may be protecting us from something worse." Now, it's actually multiple things that are worse. But here's what's amazing. Here we are 13 years later. Dawkins still blasting away at Christianity.
Yeah.
Right? That's what I mean. It's like, and this ties in with me pointing out that how do you guys view yourselves as like the champions of reason and so on, champions of logic, the champions of science? You're the super clear thinkers when you're sitting here and you're saying, "Hey, every time we blast away at Christianity and we're successful in getting people to turn to atheism, Islam comes and fills in the gap. Islam comes and takes over even more. And we don't like Islam. And we recognize that Islam's a problem, but we're just going to keep doing what we're doing. We're just going to keep blasting away at Christianity, getting more Islam, blasting away at Christianity, getting more Islam. Now entire cities are being taken over by Islam, but we just can't stop." Okay. Then just say you are the most emotionally controlled people in the world. Stop with all the, "Oh yeah, we just go where the evidence points." You sound like idiots when you say this stuff.
Yeah, it's a very weird phenomenon. And this is one of the things I said in my debate with Lawrence Krauss, like in my closing statement. Like, you're going to make the world a much worse place if you get your way. We'll see less donations and volunteering for charities. And by the way, those studies don't just look at like Christian charities. They also look at secular charities and note that more people volunteer for secular charities if they're Christian. Okay. We'll get higher rates of depression, higher rates of suicide. We'll get higher levels of authoritarianism, less value for democratic values, which will lead to less political stability. And of course, we'll have collapsing birth rates, which will, again, just is absolutely horrible for any country's economy. It's the worst thing you could do, because you've produced enough people. The economy depends on that number of people. When you drop that next generation by like 10,000 people, there are then 10,000 jobs that are not filled. That slows down economic growth, trade. If it takes like 20 people to get a ship down the Mississippi and you only have 15, that ship's going to go at a much slower pace at delivering goods. So this idea that like declining birth rates are good because it can somehow help the environment, as some people say, no, it's going to cause economic problems, and horrible things will result from that.
David, you brought up Dawkins. Didn't also Peter Boghossian recently talk about how this experiment of like social wokeness and secular ethics just fail, and we need to go back? Wasn't that him that said that recently too?
I didn't see anything recently, but that sounds exactly like something Peter Boghossian.
He's been saying stuff like that.
Yeah.
For a while now? Okay. Yeah, I remember hearing something about him saying that.
So here's where we talk about the Salafi Islam.
when a religion crushes you for 1,500 years, eventually you're like, hey, maybe we shouldn't be doing this. The same thing with Islam. If Islam continues on the path that it's going right now, eventually their own adherents will rebel against them. They can't right now because they'll get killed.
That's not happening. The revivalist movements in Islam are Salafi, and they're trying to go back to what Muhammad, and they're actually more authoritarian. They're actually far worse than a lot of regular Muslim type folk are, because they're trying to go back. The question we need to ask is, yes, Christians did horrible things, but if we're going on what Tom Holland does in his book Dominion, there were definitely revivalist movements. He talks about Christianity being like a city underneath an earthquake line. What are those things called? Fault line. Yeah. He's like, yeah, they build these structures, but then oftentimes within Christianity, revivalist movements shake things up and start things over. So he talks about this throughout his book. They did horrible things to the Cathars. Revivalists come along and they start to say, no, we need to get back to the teachings of Jesus. And you're saying 1,500 years. Actually, again, Brian. So with that, I wanted you guys' opinion on that. Like, Islam, this is one of the points I was trying to make. If Islam goes through a reformation, that's bad, because that'll just go back to the foundations of Islam, which is child marriage, polygamy, war, conquest. Why are the people thinking that Islam could just go through a reformation and everything will be fine and hunky and dory?
Because they had a false picture of Christianity, where Christianity just starts off violent, and then it's violent for 1,000+ years, and then people get sick of all the violence, and then they have a reformation. And that's complete idiotic. That's not how it happened. It's like, you are completely out of touch with reality. Quit claiming to be a champion of reason when you don't even have the basic picture correct. Right. But anyway, since they view it like that, right, Christianity starts off violent. It just focuses on killing and oppressing people. Eventually, people get sick of it, and they say, you know what? Let's come up with a nicer religion. Okay, well, then you look at Islam and you say, okay, Islam starts off, they're going around chopping people's heads off and so on. Why don't we just look for the same thing that happened in Christianity? And not realizing, no, Christians, it never crossed any Christian's mind for centuries to spread anything through the sword. You eventually have the Roman Empire adopt Christianity, and the Roman Empire had a Roman Empire kind of way of doing things. And that when you have some sort of reformation in Christianity, it's, hey, let's go back to the teachings of Jesus, which doesn't call for a lot of the stuff we're doing. So let's get away from the stuff we've been doing and get back to what Jesus actually said. Well, guess what? It's good for people to actually get back to what Jesus said, especially if they've absorbed a lot of nonsense over the centuries and so on. And so when you say, hell yeah, let's have the same thing in Islam that you had in Christianity. Okay, in Islam, it would be the reverse. It would be like, hey, we've picked up some peaceful practices over the centuries and so on. We need to get back to what Muhammad taught, namely global conquest. And guess what? That's what you get, and that's what you got right now.
Yeah, people get this whole thing wrong. This whole idea of reform, where they imagine that reform means you have something that is underdeveloped and that is bad, and then you reform it, meaning you change it, and you change it into something better and more advanced and more functional and more peaceful and more good, and then you get something better, which is why Christianity in the past was bad, but then they decided to reform it and said, hey, let's make it more peaceful, and then it became more peaceful and more cool, and then everyone was like, yeah, cool, super wonderful. But that's not really what it is. Reform is basically going back, in the sense, to how things actually were. And yes, in Islam, as you just mentioned, they also have a reform movement. It is called revivalism, and it's called the Salafi movement, and it's called what you see currently rising around or what was on the rise in the last 50 years or so in the Arab world, what also led to the emergence of Al-Qaeda and ISIS and the Taliban and so on. That is Islamic reform.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's what's terrifying.
But by the way, think about how dangerous the stupid, dumb ideas that people have are, right? So people have a dumb idea, like they will not understand the history of Christianity, and they'll project their own fantasies about what Christianity is and so on. They'll project that onto history and say, this is how it happened, even though it's complete nonsense. And based on their completely inaccurate fantasy, they'll then conclude that, hey, we're okay with Islam because Islam will have a reformation. Everything's going to turn out just fine.
Yeah.
And you don't like, this is like world crushing, world changing, millions of people dying scenarios that spring out of your stupid idea in your head, right? If you're going to say, hey, let's, Islam, we're all going to be okay. We'll be okay with Islam because it'll reform just like Christianity did. Okay. Lots of people are going to suffer and die because of your delusion. Oh, great champion of reason who only goes where the evidence points, even though nothing you say is ever correct.
Yeah, I just do not get what a lot of the secularist atheists are doing. It's mind-boggling. It's self-destructive. It's basically cultural political suicide. They're literally spending their days trying to argue with Christians, to try to deconvert them, to get them to leave Christianity, and then they're complaining about Islam rising. It's like the definition of insanity, doing the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result. They're not going to fix the world. And one of the things I brought up in this whole conversation with Justin is he says, well, like we maybe can come up with secular structures that could replace Christianity. Okay, well, it hasn't worked. What you're telling me it's going to work in like 10, 20 years. When's it going to start working? Because we're not seeing that. We're seeing the exact opposite. We're seeing the collapse of the West, not the salvation through this new age of reason that Dawkins talked about.
That's the other thing. That's yet another example, right? It's like when the new atheist came out, it's, hey, if we can get millions of people to leave Christianity and become atheists, then the world's going to get better. We're going to become more tolerant. We're going to be more scientific. We're going to be okay. We've had 25 years of millions of people becoming atheists. Name any way the world has improved in any way at all with millions of people converting to atheism. Just name one. So one, do that, and two, show me any prediction you made 25 years ago that has actually come true. Like one, show me one thing you said that would happen that's actually happened, because everything you said is going to happen. It's been the opposite. So at what point do you say, here's how things worked in our head, and then we actually made the world go along with it, and now everything our heads said would happen, the opposite has happened? At what point do you realize you just have no clue what you're talking about, and you have no idea how reality works, and maybe you should stop doing what you're doing because you're too stupid to realize that nothing that your fantasies do not actually work in the real world? Like, at what point? Champions of reason. At what point do you realize, hey, we keep trying the same thing over and over again, and it keeps blowing up in our face? And the more we do what we've been doing, the less it lines up with what we thought would happen. Like, at what point do you just say, oh, our position has been massively disconfirmed, we need to stop? Like,
David, do you remember when Richard Dawkins was complaining about like all the metaphysical stores and psychics showing up in Britain like lately? Do you remember that clip when he was doing that?
No, I didn't. But I remember seeing all these articles about how witchcraft is increasing and all this stuff is increasing and stuff. I was like, wait a minute, I thought everyone's going to become these super great scientists.
Yeah, most of the people that have deconverted from traditional Christianity have become religious nuns. So yeah, you've seen atheists go up a little bit from like 3 to 6%, agnostic 4 to 6%, but you go from 14 to 24%. Now, the nothing in particular includes people that are spiritual but not religious. They're called religious nuns often, I see in the research, because they're basically nothing in particular, but they're spiritual. They do things like horoscopes often. This is the group most associated with that sort of mentality. Like, you do kind of like these spiritual practices, but you're not a part of an organized religion. And so that's what we see actually coming out. People don't leave Christianity and go to atheism. They leave and they go basically back to like a modern form of paganism in a lot of ways.
It's funny when you said religious nuns. I thought of nuns.
Yeah, you're thinking of nuns. You're thinking of they're all become Catholic nuns.
Yeah.
If they go dress up like nuns now.
Yeah. Powerful.
Yeah, that can be confusing because sometimes I hear that too when they're saying like, yeah, all the religious nuns are out. Yeah. No,
yeah, quit calling them nuns. Just call them the zeros or something. The zeros.
Free mandatory wedgies for all of the wongalongs and winglings. All right.
Look who it is. It's David Wu, and it's an Asian. You didn't catch it. This started last time me and AP were live. Someone came along and his name was Mike Wonger. It's an Asian version of Mike Winger. And then right after that, someone came up with David Wu.
Crazy. Man. Justin sounds like he learns theology from Aaron Ra. Like, yeah, the guy's got a theology degree too. Like, he's gone to seminary, but like his arguments are just
wait.
Like,
Justin has?
Yes, he's got a degree. Has a degree.
What?
Yeah, he's talked about it numerous times. He was in seminary. He was a pastor.
What's his name?
What? That dude?
Yeah.
What's
know
his name?
it doesn't.
What's his
I know.
name? Justin what?
I don't know. His channel's Deconstruction Zone, and he just debates with Christians all day.
Justin Trudeau.
That's it. So yeah,
Huh. That's very
He's got-
wild.
I know. I listen. I'm not saying every theology is great, but I mean a lot of the commenters were just saying he comes across he's like an axe to grind, and honestly, that's how I felt. Like I'm just going to take the least charitable interpretation of all these passages so that Christianity looks bad, instead of saying, well, how is this understood by the church fathers? How was this implemented? How did this shape the modern world in our development of human rights and this kind of stuff? You know,
Justin Holmes. He was
His-
sub Holmes.
his TikTok lives are so frustrating. He makes the affirmative that God doesn't exist, but doesn't think he needs to demonstrate that at all. Yeah, and that's a problem, of course. That's a huge philosophical problem. If you're going to say God doesn't exist, that's an affirmative. You need to defend that. Question for David. Now that Andrew Tate is in the U.S., would you debate him on Islam?
He doesn't need to be in the U.S. He could be anywhere. He could be anywhere in the universe. I'd debate him on Islam.
Yeah, absolutely. Germany went through Nazism, but kept the totalitarianism. Can't even idle your car or honk your horn for no reason because that's illegal. Free my ass.
Yes.
Yeah, sorry, Kyle. You got to get out of there. This episode was great to watch, and it was funny how Tim debated almost more than IP. Yeah, again, it's Tim's podcast. He's going to debate, say what he wants.
And by the way, if a host of a platform is cooking, my goodness, let him cook, man. Cook him. Cook him, Tim.
Tim Cook turned into Tim Cook for a little bit there. Baron
Munchausen.
Yeah, when escaping the moon on the Queen's hair, they reached the end, then got more and are fine until learning it's cut from above. Fail. What is this supposed to mean?
I saw. That was a book and a movie a long time ago, but that was a long time. That was like high school when I saw that.
Lord Ezra doesn't evaporate. Ezra lasts much longer than our freedoms. All Muslims who don't worship Ezra must have been corrupted. Nicaea is the proof.
Valid points.
You see,
David got to talk to Mary Jo Sharp last week and surprised to see that she was friends with you. Just wanted to say I'm a huge fan of you. Thank you, Izzy.
And Nabil. Nabil and Mary Jo we're doing the Biola apologetics program at the same time, and there's like a 2 weeks where you go out there. I wasn't there, but I just went there to hang out with Nabil the entire time. And yeah, that's where we met Mary Jo, because she was also in the program. So yeah, that was a long time ago. You're talking like 2005 or 2006 or something like that.
Inspiring Haku says, whispers of the breeze, cherry blossoms gently fall. Spring soft breeze returns while Islam constantly lies.
That's inspiring haiku.
Is Than short for Thanatos? Kind of like how Rad is short for Rathu. You see, IP is friends with death. Love you guys. I said when Than streams alone, the thumbnail should be only fans, but he should replace the F with a T.
Only fan. Did you see Matt's other message to you about that?
Only fan. That's one.
It's sad to see some, not all atheists act like this, and it gets the spotlight. Yeah, they sent me, like, when they were planning this, they sent me 4 names, and I said like three of them are good. And then they picked Justin, so that's who they wanted.
Funny.
IP, I have trouble reading the Bible constantly, but love to read systematic theology books. How can I change to where I love to read the Bible as to theology? Here's what I'd say. Try getting the Bible on audiobook and then going for walks and listening to it. Maybe that might help. So that's what I do sometimes.
Very based advice.
After Tim called that dude dumb, I subscribed to his channel. The way he was mopping the floor with him is so glorious and satisfying. Yeah, you don't come on Tim's show and try to dominate and control it and interrupt him. It's his show. Show some respect. And when he wanted to talk, I let him talk. It's his show.
I did show respect by humiliating him.
Tim should get you two on with like 2 Muslims. That would be amazing.
Man. Anytime.
Muslims are scared, man.
Yeah, not sure whether you've noticed, IP, but Muslims not big on debating nowadays.
They're scared.
Yeah. What is up with that? It's like 2 years ago they were like, "I'll debate you on anything. I will defend Muhammad over Aisha." And now
I told you it's every Muslim debater who comes out, he's got some new shtick, right? He's got some new trick, some new stunt, some new way of deceiving people, and he'll get away with using that for a few debates, and then people catch on to it. It doesn't work anymore. But it's like the process, because of the internet, the process has accelerated. Like back in the day, it might take 10 years or something like that to expose the guy. Whereas now it's like 2. It seems like they've got a run of about 2 or 3 years or something like that. Then they collapse.
Yeah, I've not tried the Obsidian app. Sorry. So, hi, Than. Thanks for the great conversation today. And Michael, you destroyed Krauss. The new atheism is dead. Thanks to guys like you. Great work. Well, thank you. Much appreciated that. Yeah.
Thanks, Jacob.
At this point, what ground do they have to stand on? They're like, we've given them, they could make these arguments 10, 15 years ago. Now the data's coming in and it is not looking good for the secular societies they want to create. And we are seeing more authoritarianism out of their societies. I mean, there's a reason people don't want to live in places like the UK, Germany, or Sweden with how authoritarian they've gotten. It's insane. Can you show the democracy studies where to find? Yeah, I got a couple here. As I mentioned, the role of Protestantism in democratic consolidation among transitional states. Where does this other one I have it? Robert Greer, The Effects of Religion on Economic Development. That's more of an economic one. Let's see here. The Cause of Corruption, a cross-national study by Daniel Treisman is also good. That's a good one there. Other ones I've got on Christian nationalism specifically. So what is this? Unchurched Christian nationalists in the 2016 U.S. presidential election. That's the 2021 Stroop study I've cited before. Christian nationalism and views of immigration in the United States. Is the relationship stronger for the religiously inactive? That's another good one there. So yeah, check out those ones.
What's wrong with you? Oh, AP just sees something stupid in the.
I just saw a comment by Christian Gadfly saying, "England isn't authoritarian; they just keep out Islamophobic trash like David
Wood." Yeah. Hey, we should get on Christian Gadfly one day.
Trigonometry just released an episode on Dennis Prager about the subject. It was very good. Cool.
Oh, might want to check it out.
Yeah. Inspiring philosophy. Do you believe in Christ and Christ alone for salvation? And that's simply by trusting in Christ, you'll receive eternal salvation. Yeah, as long as you believe in Christ and who he said he was. You just can't say, well, Christ was a Hindu incarnation of Vishnu, and therefore
a Muslim prophet.
Believing in Christ. Will you to reply to Dan McClellan on slavery? Didn't he block you? Yeah, he blocked me, and we will reply. It's bad, and there's so many things we can do to that. I'm telling you. Is the angel of the Lord Jesus? It seems silly to assume each theophany is Jesus, like the burning bush, theophany of Sinai. Was that also him? Well, why would it be silly to assume that? God wants to keep acting in creation, so he's going to keep acting in creation. What's the problem with that? Oh, I don't see the problem.
Is every theophany in the Old Testament even recorded as being the angel of the Lord?
Not everyone, but a lot of them are.
Yeah. But yeah, why would it be silly? I don't know.
Sigard is here. Do you guys agree that a rebirth of belief in God is starting to emerge, or do you guys agree that the rebirth is starting to emerge? I think the pendulum is starting to shift back, and we saw it with like recent statistics showing that Christianity's decline has stopped, and more young men are religious than young women in that same age bracket.
I would. I've mentioned this before. It was sometime around like 2012 at a debate at Columbia University, and I think it was on the moral argument or something like that. And afterwards, I was hanging out with 6 or 7 or 8, something like that, atheists. Just me. We went to have dinner and stuff. I'm hanging out with all atheists, and they're asking me why I believe certain things, and I'm giving arguments. So I'm going through basic arguments and stuff with them because, again, the debate was just about something about the moral argument or something like that. Anyway, so we start talking about other arguments and so on, and finally one of them says, I don't care if it's true or not. I just care that it's bad.
Mm-hmm.
And that was like shocking to me because it's like, I got a problem with Islam. If Islam were true, I'd want to know it. I'd want to know it. It's like that would matter to me. And he's like, I don't care. This whole true or false. I just care that it's bad for society. And that was surprising to me. And then I went down the line. I went to the person beside him. I said, hey, do you agree with that? And they all agreed. I'm sitting there. And then I'm sitting there thinking, wait, I'm sitting here giving arguments to people who at the end of the day are saying, I don't care what the arguments are. I just care that Christianity is bad for society. And so then I started thinking like, oh, maybe what's more important is to show you guys that it's really, really good for you. That's maybe that's more important. But anyway, so here's the thing. The new atheism presented itself as this rational movement, this rational scientific movement. It just wasn't. They were emotionally enraged at Christianity, and they pretended that they're coming to this conclusion based on evidence. Well, what follows? If it's really an emotional movement, right? It's we hate Christianity, we're mad at Christianity, we're mad at our grandma and stuff like that for making us go to church, all these things. Well, what happens if you tell all these people, hey, things will get better if we all become atheists, and then it doesn't work? And then they start realizing, whoa, everything we think is going to happen, every way we think we're going to become better actually doesn't work. It doesn't happen. Eventually it fizzles out and people realize, oh, we didn't realize how good we had it. Well, what's going to happen is if the main underlying reason for attacking Christianity was your emotional rage, and then you realize, oh, it's actually good for society and it was doing all these things and I didn't know because I wasn't aware of what it's actually doing in society, then your emotional rage can eventually go away and your arguments suck. And so what happens? I think you'll eventually turn a corner, and I think it's what we're starting that right now.
That's what they do.
Justin should take a DeLorean back to 2005. Jordan Peterson and Ed Pfizer expose the new atheists as charlatans. Dawkins is scared to criticize Islam.
Peace be upon him.
That is another thing weird about the secularists or the atheists. They're kind of afraid to criticize Islam. Like we just saw with Alex O'Connor, like not wanting to show up to the debate because threats for Ridvan, not him. It's like, are you guys really this afraid of Islam? Like, is that why you're not criticizing it? You're just going after Christianity? Like,
but again, think of the insanity there. This Islam stuff, this is really dangerous. So let me just spend all my time blasting away at Christianity. Yeah. And what happens then? You get more of the Islam, the stuff you acknowledge is significantly more dangerous to you. And that's what I mean. It's like, you're the champion of reason here. Because that seems insane. That seems insane, right? It seems like compulsive behavior that you can't control. Like, I can't control myself. I just have to keep doing this. What is it I have to keep attacking Christianity. Like, why? What's happening? Well, I'm getting Islam. Do you like Islam? No, I think it's way worse. What are you going to do? I'm going to blast away at Christianity. It's like, I don't know. It seems like this weird, obsessive, compulsive behavior that can't be controlled.
Yeah. Now, Christian Gadflag, Dawa guys are cool because they argue all day like middle school girls.
That's true.
You should do a video on that. Like, you should do a comparison somehow. I don't know. Do something. That would be fun. Despite Christianity being able to solve the problems of evil and suffering through theodicies, why can't atheism solve the problem of evil and suffering? Yeah, that was C.S. Lewis's point. There's no reason to call something evil if there is no ultimate goodness out there. So, it's still a problem on the atheist worldview. It doesn't actually solve the issue.
There's a philosopher who's not a Christian, by the way, who recently wrote a book called The Problem of Evil for Atheists. And he actually outlines a big issue for atheists with regards to the problem of evil. So I would recommend checking that out as well.
Yeah. Why do Protestants deny the Eucharist being Jesus's body when there are Eucharist miracles? Not all Protestants do that. Anglicans, Lutherans, Presbyterians, and some Methodists all agree that it is Jesus's body. You're thinking of evangelicals, Baptists, Pentecostals, but the high church Protestants do accept that it is Jesus's body. IP freely converted, jihad converted by the sword. Well said. Just here for the treat. Well, thank you, much appreciated. IP freely. Yes, he did. If someone makes a cocky sneer at you, your Sky Daddy, will you guys start ripping pages out of the God delusion?
Yes, we will humiliate that book.
As a Christian, I appreciate Tim taking a stance. Muslims can keep Tate. We don't want him back. Yeah, it's the stuff that guy says. I don't understand how he's based. How do you reconcile?
It's funny. Today this thing happened. Patrick Bet David had Andrew Tate on.
Yeah.
And it's getting ridiculous because he announced it. I think yesterday or the day before that he's going to have him on, and
nothing is off limits.
He said nothing is off limits. I will ask him questions and post your questions below. And the whole comment section was flooded with people just posting videos, quotes of Andrew Tate and blasting him and saying, hold him responsible. Ask him why he said this. Ask him why he said that. Patrick Bet David ignored all of it. Of course, he ignored all of it. Apparently, I didn't watch it yet, but that's what I'm told by people who follow it closely. Apparently, he ignored all of it, and he didn't ask anything like that. He just gave him the opportunity to once again present himself as a great hero who destroys everyone and who is so totally based and all that. It's just. It just makes me wonder what kind of arrangement Patrick Bet David has with Andrew Tate. It seems that Andrew Tate still has lots of money, and it might just be that he pays Patrick Bet David, or that they have a business arrangement or something, which just really calls the credibility of Patrick Bet David and his so-called, his platform where he supposedly cares about the truth, where he supposedly cares about traditional family values and so on, very, very much in question. It's a giant scam, but the most outrageous thing about it is that some people actually are fooled who are on the conservative or traditionalist side, and who end up supporting people like Patrick Bet David or Andrew Tate. Andrew Tate is a horrible human being. He's a rapist and a sex trafficker. And Patrick Bet David is basically at this point complicit.
Yeah, it's the weirdest thing ever. Like, it's pretty obvious this guy is just a piece of crap. And yet, somehow there are people on the right saying he's based or celebrating him. And it's like, what planet do we live on? Like, I honestly don't see it. I see very few people praising him. Maybe it's just my curated algorithm, but most people I see are attacking him.
Well, that has shifted over the past few years. At first, his fans would kind of overwhelm anyone who said anything, and there were certain channels, it's Milk Bar and Murdered by Crayons, and so, who just kept posting the stuff and going through his old video clips and putting them into, making them available to people, and then lots of people started catching on. And now it's kind of the reverse, where as soon as you say something positive about him, you get bombarded with video clips of him saying some really, really messed up stuff.
Yeah. How do you reconcile Matthew 7:13-14 with your post-millennialist convictions and believe that all Nicene denominations are Christian? Also, does this mean few are saved? So that's about entering through the narrow gate and few choose it. If that's the case, then Christianity should never, ever have been the world's largest religion as it is now. I think he's talking about specifically about people in that time and how very few were going to reject it, and most people were going to reject him, and they were going to be a persecuted small minority for hundreds of years. Where did you get that fan? Where did you get the chair? It looks so comfortable.
Amazon.
All right.
I don't have picked a random chair, man. It's actually not that comfy either.
No, I need a new chair. Hey, look, I got this one, which is extremely comfortable, but I need something mesh. It gets really hot. It gets really hot.
I like the mesh.
Yeah, that's what I need. I need this. I need this chair, but mesh. I didn't realize. I was like, oh, let me get this awesome chair with great reviews. And
don't get a chair. Don't get a chair. Get one of these.
What the hell are you doing?
This is what I sit on.
Matt.
This is what I sit on. It's really good for your back. And like, you don't get too hot. You just sit on it. And the way it sits you upright, you can sit here for like 3 hours and your back doesn't hurt at all. Back doesn't hurt at all for 3 hours. You can sit here all day. Yeah. Get one of these nice little nifty stool things.
Send me a link to something like that. What is it even called?
Man, I don't remember. It's like a nifty stool. I forget, but it's I forget the name of it, but like one of my professors recommended it. I was getting my master's, and yeah, I sit here this thing for 3 hours all day, no problems. It's like you put your knees on the first one and you sit on the upper one, and bam, you're the way. Kneeling chair, yeah.
I'll look into it.
Yeah, David, get a kneeling chair.
Chances of me getting kneeling chair 0%.
You're gonna get a kneeling. I'll get you a kneeling chair. I'll deliver it. Have you guys met Courtney from Biblical Apologetics? She's a good debater. She debated the Deconstruction Zone a while back. Yeah, I know Courtney. She's cool.
Yeah,
I've not seen
I like
that
Courtney
debate, though.
Said Nazi.
Have you seen Dan McClellan's response? Yeah, it's bad. He gets the history all wrong. He thinks like no one was making strides against slavery until after the Enlightenment. Utterly false. Utterly false. I have so many sources. I can go to St. Anselm, for example, and many others that were making tremendous strides against slavery. So yeah, we will address that and destroy it. I was just kidding earlier. I think you're all great mass debaters. Thank you. I'm glad I'm a mass debater. IP, do you think American Christianity is too politicized? I personally think so. I've seen some examples of idolatry within politics. Yeah, I think it has kind of come that way, but I think it's also blown way out of proportion. I don't think people are worshiping Trump, for example. I think this is just a talking point of a lot of people on the left to try to like push it that way, but Trump never comes up in any church I visited over the past like 10 years. Like, I don't know where this is coming from. You see this coming from leftists trying to talk about Christianity, but when you're actually in the Christian right, you don't see a lot of the same stuff that the leftists are so scared about.
If it has been overly politicized, we've corrected a lot because, at least anecdotally speaking, I more often than not in the many churches that I go to traveling for ministry, people are oftentimes against the over politicization of Christianity at this point in the churches. So
IP, watch your video on Job today. Do you have any more thoughts now, or have you heard rational pushback? It's been a while since I've looked at that subject. Sorry, I'd have to go back and look at it. Atheists proselytize, seek, convert, and kill for their dogmatic faithlessness when in power. It's still a problem in China. Agnostics are the ones that don't care. Yeah, it's weird. They're not going to make the world better, and this has just been shown in so much research. Why are atheists so willing to lie to disprove Christianity? Because they got an axe to grind. They I mean, honestly, it's pretty obvious half the time. I'm not saying this about all atheists, but a lot of them have axe to grind against the God of the Bible and their upbringing and what they were raised to believe. And they think they're going to make the world a better place. And the data does not show that. Have you heard of mouse utopia experiment? The results were eerily similar to secular humanism. Yeah. So the mouse experiment I have heard. So this researcher put all these mice in a big facility, gave them everything they wanted, abundance of food, water. The first generation of mice were very strong, but over time they got smaller and smaller and smaller, and they stopped reproducing. Actually, by the end, the last generation of mice were mostly gay, and they were not producing offspring. So you got gay tiny mice eventually, which is going to happen to us if we stay in secularism. Everyone's going to be
secularism
gay,
leads to everyone becoming gay tiny mice. What do you think about that? This is why they're turning us all into gay tiny mice.
There's a direct proportionality between being religious and jacked. Is that what you're saying, Mike?
I'm saying, yeah.
Well, yeah. Guys, it's Christianity or everyone is a gay tiny mouse. That's it. Those are your alternatives.
What are you gonna do?
You want to be a gay tiny mouse? No? All right.
You guys should start your own mini series called Atheists That Say the Darndest Things.
That would be a funny little series.
Yeah. You know, the other thing about the ancient Roman world, as I was reading, is that they had collapsing birth rates too because of rampant infanticide, constantly killing off girls, for example, leaving them exposed in the wilderness. It was Christians that were rescuing a lot of these children, raising them in orphanages or with foster parents. And that's one of the reasons Christianity grew as it did. Hey, IP, I have a business doing flight sim stuff. You've argued we live in an information construct. I've riffed on that concept with Grok 3. Amazing, powerful insights on ethics, music, finance. What do you say? Well, I'll ask Grok. I don't know. I've not looked too much into that lately.
What's Grok?
That's X. That's Twitter's IAI.
You know what Grok
it's pretty,
is, man? Get on
You don't know-
Twitter, dude.
How are you not on Twitter?
Dude, I am a closeted boomer. I'm never on social media.
Oh, what a freaking hell. All jokes
That's a
aside, I
problem.
respect and admire your work. So happy AP and David Wood praised you, and I told us to follow you. I see why they like you. You rock. Awesome. I rock.
That's what we do.
For Than, Yahweh riding on the clouds in the Old Testament is language of him bringing judgment to a nation. Would Son of Man coming on the clouds also be reference to him bringing judgment on a nation?
So the Cloud Rider motif's often associated with judgment, but the Cloud Rider motif itself is not about judgment itself. It's about the kingship of God, and the distinctness of God and his authority to do things like judgment. That being said, like, the Son of Man is judging nations, and more importantly, the Son of Man is going to be judging the rebelling Elohim and all these other things. So they're tied together, not very close, but Cloud Rider does not equal judgment. Cloud Rider equals kingship.
Muhammad is only in the Quran 4 times and means blessed one. Those 4 times could be referring to Jesus. Thoughts on Muhammad never existing? Oh, David just had a debate on this.
Yeah, so the claim is, so it's basically when you bring up the existence of Muhammad and people point out, hey, the historical sources on Muhammad are pretty late. So they start with Ibn Ishaq, which you don't even have the original of Ibn Ishaq. You got a later recension of it. But I mean, even Ibn Ishaq, if you had it, it was more than a century after Muhammad's death. And the main sources that Muslims use are 2 to 3 centuries after his death. So that's Sahih al-Bukhari and Sahih Muslim. You're talking, I mean, it's just amazing. Christians don't use any source for history about Jesus after the 1st century. Muslims don't have a source about the life of Muhammad in the 1st century of Islam. But so it'll get pointed out, hey, but you got the Quran. That's 1st century of Islam. But the Quran is talking about this guy going around doing things and so on. It only mentions Muhammad by name 4 times. And so if you're going to deny the existence of Muhammad, then you would want to, then what do you do with even the few references you have to Muhammad in the Quran where he's mentioned by name? And the claim is that, well, this could be a title. Well, if you don't have early sources on the life of Muhammad, and all you have to go on as far as the 1st century of Islam is the Quran, you can kind of say whatever you want, guys. That's the issue, right? You don't have anything. You don't have external corroboration of this, and so if you want to say, "Hey, Muhammad," which can be a name or it can be a title, and you want to say, "Okay, I'll believe it's a title," and therefore we don't have any references by name to Muhammad, you can kind of say that. So long story short, I believe those are references to the historical Muhammad, but without sources outside of that, you just can't say, which is why you have a mythicist movement against Muhammad right now.
I just started this book, In God's Path. I'm enjoying it.
Oh, that's awesome. Awesome book.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
I keep recommending it because I learned so much of it from on the history of and the expansion of Islam. And I don't know, it gave me a completely new perspective and understanding of how Islam actually began to expand and all that. It's very, very good.
Yeah, it's very good. I got a couple books here I'm going to read on Islam. I got Tom Holland's book, The Shadow of the Sword, as well. I'm going to read that too. So yeah, got some Islamic books I'm going to start reading.
In fact, maybe you should have I had him on like 1,000 years ago, Robert G. Hoyland, who wrote the book.
Yeah.
I interviewed him on my channel
No,
a
you
long
didn't.
time
Come
ago.
on. You don't know who you are.
But maybe in the future you could totally have a conversation with him or something. He's very good.
Oh yeah, I'm thinking about it. Yeah. If Jeremiah 18's conditional prophecy applied to Jesus' prediction, why didn't he declare with certainty these are the days of vengeance to fulfill all that is written without any conditions? I'm not sure what you're asking. I think Jesus just assumed his prophecies were conditional. He didn't have to declare it. So I'm not really sure I understand your entire question here. So studies for correlation of religion and democracy. I gave them. I mentioned them earlier when someone else or that you asked. Also check out work by John Compton. He's working on a book called Untethered Belief, and he's citing a lot of that. And he's given lectures where he shows data from AENS and the Compton Survey of American Fears as well for that kind of stuff. I'm neither a Calvinist nor secessionalist, but my pastor is. Yeah. He attributes most miracles to demons, including Muslims having visions of Jesus and converting to Christianity. Should I leave? I mean, it's weird. Why would demons be converting people to Christianity? Like, what sort of weird stuff is that? Like, that's a very...
To
That doesn't
troll.
even make sense. To troll. Listen, David and I reviewed a video of a guy.
That would be a funny video. Click here to see this miracle. Never gonna give you up.
David, you remember that guy we responded to? He was like into the occult, and he asked the demons what religion he should convert to, and they told him Islam.
Yeah,
it's like, is this guy even?
Yeah, he's like, I'm deep into the occult, and once you know how to talk to the demons, they'll give you information. I know how to talk to the demons, and when you ask the demons which religion I should believe in, they say Islam.
Oh, I remember that.
And
that
then,
the dude with like the long hair? He had
yeah.
new emo look and everything.
Muslims started bashing him just recently because apparently he said that the hadiths are dangerous and
shocker. Yeah, the demons told me not to believe in the hadith, and I always go with what the demons tell me to believe in. But it's funny because we're playing clips of that, and then IP was playing clips from an actual exorcist, and he's like, do not believe anything a demon says to you, except when you're in a certain situation where you have compelled him to tell you something. Apart from that, dude, everything they're telling you is deception. And this guy, they told me to convert to Islam.
We tried letting the secularists.
But it's funny because when he was saying that, the Muslims were cheering for him. Yes, alhamdulillah.
I know.
This is the proof. Demons say you should all convert to Islam. The demons. Wow. The same demons that convinced Muhammad that he's a prophet.
We tried letting secularists run things. Results: lockdown, sterilized children, suicide, lower literacy, more singles, less marriage, and more. Yeah.
Beast.
Issa's here. Hey, Issa. He says, hey, friends. Hope all is well.
Hey,
nice to see you, Issa.
What's up, dog?
Yeah. I saw Issa in DebateCon, and like he was pretty cool. He stayed like the whole time, and then went to work, and then apparently came back the next day. So props off to him. Everyone I know is a fundamentalist Mennonite.
That's the problem we all have.
I am leaving for a high church. Any advice on how to actually start this extremely lonely and anxious process? Well, find a good church that can be your new family. If you go to a church and they're stingy and weird, find a new one. Find one you're going to grow in and one that will help you.
Hey, you know, it's funny. So I was in prison, and this Mennonite singing group came to the prison to sing songs and then hang out with us and stuff. They were all super cool, but they were talking about how they've they've been modernizing, and they're talking about how they modernized and stuff. And they said some of the young guys even wear shorts while playing softball now. And that was like, the young guys start wearing shorts now with softball. But anyway, it was pretty funny because they were like, some of these guys were like, I don't know, 18, 19 and so on. You had the older guys, but then the younger guys, the kinds that would wear shorts while playing softball. They had clearly not been around inmates before or anyone like them. And I had this friend, Peanut, he was black dude, and he had gold front teeth. And I remember this like 18-year-old Mennonite kid got hypnotized by looking at his teeth. Like his eyes got bigger and bigger, and he's looking at gold. He'd never seen gold teeth before, right? And he's just staring at gold teeth. And then as my friend Peanut was moving his head, the young Mennonite's head was like moving, like following his teeth. He got hypnotized and stuff. I was like, man, you guys need to get out more, man.
Christians and atheists all lie. Christian tells a white lie if it will get someone to believe. Atheists dismiss evidence if it's too dangerous and might make people doubt atheism. Search for truth. Okay. I love you, IP, but democracy is a terrible system that violates people's property rights. Check Democracy, the God That Failed by Han Herman Hope. I would be interested.
And here we have an anarchist.
Here
we have an anarchist. One of those people who actually believes that you can have anarchy and capitalism and everything will just work out wonderfully.
Yeah.
And
hey, ANCAP Andy, I can guarantee you again, if you experience 5 seconds of actual anarchy, you would be begging for anything else, anything. Period.
yeah, I wish it could work, but it simply doesn't. And democracy can only work as what Jonathan Roch talks about in his book, Cross Purposes, with Republican virtues we get from the Christian tradition.
You have to be a Republican.
Mm-hmm. We got a great super chat here from OnlyFans. Make me part of your reality. You can explore anything you want.
I want to know who did this. I asked Matt if it was him. He said no.
No, he did. Come on.
I'm wondering if it's my wife. My wife has been making troll accounts for the
This is great. I love it. I hope this account comments more. Anytime fans on, we want to hear from OnlyFans.
I feel like if it was Matt, he would have used one of several provocative pictures of me shirtless.
Yes, he would have. Why do you have several provocative shirts of you Like, why?
Of course, they're all over it. They're all over the internet.
He subbed to my OnlyFans.
OnlyFans. Burger King is just like Islam. David and AP understand. Why is Burger King like Islam?
You have it your way.
Why would you taint your good name inviting these weaklings on? Yo, Than, you look like Ken Hovind with that shirt.
Oh, you do,
Yeah,
actually. That's true.
Is that a good or bad thing?
Bad, of course.
Mm-hmm.
I have to burn my
Groypers
shirt.
don't go to church. They're fake Christians. Says sketchy therapy. Hey, Than, super cool to see how far you've come, man. Was a pleasure debating these atheists with you a few months back. Says pancaking. Cool.
Thanks, man.
If Jesus is true, why did head injury on the railroad accident cause a Phineas Gage to go from Catholic to drunk womanizer? Does he go to hell? No. Yeah, there's a lot. I used to believe this, but there's a lot of myths about Phineas Gage. A lot of it is the legend. A lot of that stuff they claim about him didn't actually happen. So it's one of those crazy things that just sort of became an urban legend. A lot of it's mythology, though.
And it's got to be pointed out. I mean, we believe in the brain and things like that, and that brain damage can actually affect you. That's not in dispute as far as I know.
Sheikh Ahmed Shafi, a Bangladesh Sunni Islamic Deoband scholar, once said in a gathering that women are like tamarins. They cause men to salivate. I don't know what that is about.
Powerful.
Who's more bass, Tovia Singer or Mike Winger?
Tovia Singer by far. like orders of magnitude.
AP David, have you seen the animation, the 21? It was released a few days ago. Story of the Egyptian Christians that were unalived.
Yes, I shared it on my community tab. Told everyone to watch it.
We talked about going through it in a live once, but we never ended up doing it.
Yeah, I wasn't sure if I could do that, but
you might want to message them and ask them, say, hey, can we watch your stuff? Can we watch?
Yeah, I tried finding their contact info. I didn't really try hard, to be honest, but couldn't find anything. But maybe we should do that. I watched it twice. I showed it to my wife as well. She was very moved by it. Would totally recommend watching that.
Is Baal the god of Muhammad, fam, and the god of the Kaaba? Would you talk to Christ overall on this? He debates this point against Islam effectively. That Baal is the god of Islam? Okay.
Paul.
I just say it's Satan. I don't see why we got just cut out the middleman.
My wife confirmed it was not her who made that OnlyFans account.
Thanks for letting us know.
Just like
So the mystery remains unsolved.
We'd already moved on, Fan. I don't know why you bring that back up. Are you you really concerned about this?
It'll be 2 years from now, and it'll be like, and I've confirmed my cousin did not start that either. So we're whittling it down one person at a time. One person at a time. We're finding out who didn't do it.
Odd question in John 6. It's named that Passover was the next holiday, but the bread was barley, which would have grown during the time of the year or made for Passover. Could it be Passover, or is it the wrong holiday? Well, barley was grown around that time. It was, I don't know what the issue is. That's evidence that it was just before Passover. I talked about this in my video, John and Eyewitness Account. Or no, it was in the video on undesigned coincidences called The Reliability of the Gospels, where we went through that. And that was actually evidence that this is an undesigned coincidence. So yeah, I don't know what you mean by that. I don't think that's the case. Mr. Me comes back. I'll bump it up to 1,000 if IP and Than knock David Wood out.
Good luck.
David, why don't you just let me do it really quick and we split the money?
Because I don't think you could knock me out.
We couldn't knock him out, Than. He'd be running from us. He's too fast.
I've been hit pretty hard. I've been dropped down to one. I've been dropped down to one knee, but I've never actually been knocked out.
He didn't state a method, right? Like,
yeah. If you're going to use a baseball bat or something like
tranquilizer.
No. Yeah, like alcohol. We'll just knock you out with alcohol.
Yeah,
that's true. Yeah, show up with a bottle of whiskey. I'll drink the bottle of whiskey. I'll be knocked out, and you get $1,000, and we'll split it.
All right, Mr. Me, send 1,000 in. You got it all. Send it in. Send it in through the donation. What is the argument against the cases where people die temporarily and experience nothing of an afterlife before being resurrected? Not their time. We don't know entirely what's going on with those cases. I discussed them a little bit in my series Irreducible Mind, so you can check that out. I forget exactly what I said in there, but it could be just a simple case that functions were not working. Something in regards to that. I forget exactly what I said, but check out that series, Irreducible Mind, where I talked about that. So
IP just glitched.
I glitch a lot.
You just glitched badly.
IP when I glitch when IP. Yes. So you guys gonna review the Tate thing soon?
No,
you're not even gonna review it at all.
No, I don't care.
All right, well that's it. We might review it later on this channel.
Yeah, not sure. It's kind of at a point where if you're still falling for this, then you're like, what are we gonna say?
Yeah. I've not talked about Tate on this channel. We may do a stream on that.
Oh yeah, if you haven't talked about Tate, then you should do one just to show your fans are informed. Look, if you want to do something, helpful. The most helpful thing in responding to Tate, the dude, he's like Dawa level liar, right? Like I've said before, like prison, you run into every kind of liar, every kind of con game. I have never seen anyone who lies as freely as like Dawa guys. It's like if a good con man is like careful about lying. It's careful because you don't want to be caught. You don't want to be caught. You want to make everything believable. Dawa guys can just lie because there's no concept of accountability. There's no concept of your own people calling you out and exposing you for something. And therefore they just lie as free. They can lie left and right. They can fake hate crimes against themselves like Sheikh Uthman did. It's like you could do whatever you want, say whatever you want. It never affects you at all. It never affects your credibility with the Dawa fans. And Tate is like that in the sense that it doesn't matter what he said. It could be something that would take you 5 seconds of research to refute. Like him saying, "Oh, all this stuff was 10 years ago." That's what he said on Candace Owens' show and stuff like that. It's complete lie. Yeah. People just no. Here's a clip from 2 years ago saying you were still doing it, and so on. So anyway, what's most helpful is taking some of the little compilation clips that have been shared, show people how they refute the things that Tate is saying. And then put links to these little clips so that when they see someone saying, "No, Andrew, this was all over 10 years ago that Andrew Tate was doing this," boom, video, boom, video, boom, video. No, that's false. So yeah, it's just a situation now of making it easier for people to expose the lies right when they're told.
You're muted, Mike.
Oh, what's your favorite, dumbest, funniest thing that Nathan's ever said? Yeah, maybe the Bible says don't have children. That was something.
That whole Tim Pool debate, yeah.
Yeah. When has an atheist ever been caught truthing? Haha, you see? Got him. Than and I are going to be live in person Friday in the evening because, I will be... I'm going to be up in Wisconsin with him. So we're going to be doing a live Q&A this Friday. Anyone's interested. Also, this video is coming out soon. Anybody wants to see it, you can go on to my Patreon or donate through the website, and we will get you the link. But I will let you guys see kind of a sneak peek of what we're working with. This video took a while to research for.
Jewish and Christian traditions ascribe the first 5 books of the Bible to Moses, a prophet of God who led the Hebrews out of Egypt in the 13th century BC. But many scholars have rejected this tradition, and even doubt if Moses ever existed. Instead, the 5 books of Moses, or the Pentateuch as it's more properly called, must have been written much later and were originally separate sources. They were then compiled at a later point and attributed to a mythical figure called Moses. Allegedly, we are told all the evidence shows the Pentateuch is a late document and could not possibly date back to the time of Moses. But within the scholarly world, some interesting evidence has come forward. Several aspects of the Pentateuch suggest very ancient traditions that could not have developed during later periods of Israel's history. And when we combine all this data, we come away with a powerful cumulative case that the Pentateuch is very ancient, and much of it could date to the very time of Moses.
So that's what we're working with, ladies and gentlemen. That's going to be the video coming out soon, but you can watch it right now if you sign up to donate through the Patreon or through the website, link below. So that's what we got.
I just wanted to show that I have one of those too.
Ooh. How'd you get that scar between your eyes? Someone asked.
I hit my head.
Oh, yeah, that'll happen. Yeah. All right. What are you guys doing on your channels? What are you guys going to be doing this week?
I think, I don't know, we might do something on David's channel tomorrow.
Yeah, that would be good.
We already did 2 on mine, and we didn't do one yesterday. So
I will probably post a video tomorrow morning. We'll see. I've been a little sick, but
you're sick.
I want to post a video titled "Why I'm Fasting for Ramadan, Even Though I'm a Christian." And it's just because I sleep during the day and stay up at night, and therefore, it's funny. My last meal of the day is around 5 a.m. and I go to sleep around like 8 or something like that, and then I wake up in the afternoon, and I usually like before we're about to go live, I'm like, oh man, I need to eat something, and then so it's like 7:30 or something like that. So guess what? I'm Ramadan fasting like year round.
That's true. You are a true Muslim.
Yeah, I'm the true Muslim. I Ramadan fast year round. It's just I don't know. I don't like go around saying, "Look at me, I'm fasting."
Than is very concerned who OnlyFans is. This is gonna bother him for weeks.
Hey, OnlyFans, you should like stalk him online. Everywhere he goes live.
All right. So yeah, Than and I are going to be in Wisconsin this week. We'll do a live Q&A later. So I think Friday is when we're going to do that. So check that out. Sign up to donate. Link is below. Thank you for coming, everyone. I will see you guys next time. And hopefully Timcast has already talked about me coming back at some point. So yeah, hopefully at some point I get to go back up there but yeah, they've already talked about other events they want to have me at. So that should keep going. So that's a good connection. Hopefully we can use that more. So excellent. So all right.
Why did that say, are you all Protestants other than AP?
Well, I mean, David's a Protestant. Than and I don't say. So there it is.
Cowards.
Exactly. So, all right. Peace, everyone.
You made it to the end of this video, which means this message matters to you. If you want to see more content like this reaching people for Christ, you can help make it happen. Your support makes these videos possible. Click the link below and donate today. And if you want to go even deeper, consider joining our Patreon community. You'll get early access to videos, behind-the-scenes content, and a place to connect with others passionate about this mission.